Okay, and we are officially live. Yay!
Welcome back, everybody, to Captain's One Pod, episode 20.
What kind of pod we're in, you decide.
So, you guys have noticed now for a few weeks, Ensign Carter is no longer around. Now, reason being, one, he's been on away missions. It's been beautiful. He's been doing some great work with the engineering department. He's learning from my chief engineer, getting to know his role. Well, he's been promoted. Okay, he officially is no longer Ensign Carter. He is Lieutenant Junior Grade Carter. We'll probably just call him Lieutenant Carter to shorten it all down. Um, he'll be assuming the role of my chief engineer when he comes back to the Kitty Hawk. We've taken him over to Space Dock, which is why I'm on shore leave this week. Get him down, get him back to the academy and going through some classes. And when he's able to join back, he will. But the engineering department is so very stressful. So we understand, Carter, for you to take your time. But congratulations on the promotion there. With
Indeed.
us this week, this little gray square below me is our dear friend Ensign Lumen. Lumen is an ensign in the sciences division on the USS Hornet, I believe. And
Yeah, sure. What the hell? Why not?
yeah, right. Everybody who joins us this week
I don't check the crew roster on a daily basis. What, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, right. Everybody that joins us
because no one remembers me.
And then, unless they're older than us, if they're older than us, like John, if your dad ever joins, it's Admiral Hudson, of course. Everybody else that joins us, I don't care what you are, you're a fucking ensign right off the bat.
Yep, that's how it works.
I mean,
I love how I didn't even join, but I'm automatically already a very high.
That's because you kind of made yourself. That's okay. We love you.
To do that either. I just happened to forget that you were on a podcast and started talking.
So, everybody, we told you guys last time that we were going to get into Voyager seasons 1 and 2 today. Yeah. About that, I've been all over Star Trek TikTok recently, and there are some things that surprise the absolute fuck out of me that you guys don't know. Now, again, this is probably mostly the people that are just now getting into Star Trek, really know nothing about it, or you've watched it because the stories are fun, but you haven't really given a thought as to how everything works. So we're going to educate you today.
education.
So welcome to Two Captains, One Classroom, the Education Edition.
Before we get too started, might as well get this out of the way. You already know this is coming. So, as some of you might notice, my uniform and background are just a little bit different today. There's a reason for that. So here, probably next week, there is going to be a new Star Trek audio drama on Spotify. It is a audio drama I've been working on for the last couple of years, and it is finally going into production. It will debut probably next week. I'm going to say probably next Saturday. Yeah, that's...
What's the name, John?
So the official name is going to be Star Trek Yorktown. It is a Excelsior class ship that has kind of a weird configuration. Let me pull out my all handy dandy binder here. Let's see. Find the page, if maybe the camera will let you see it. So, no! There, you can kind of see it. It is a very oddly structured Excelsior class with an elongated saucer section and 4 nacelles instead of the regular 2. Yeah. It is set during the Lost era of Star Trek, about 20-25 years before the start of the Next Generation. Keep your eye out for that. Bound to be a good time for all.
So, Yeah, yeah. And we're also going to be working on one. We're going to be brainstorming over the next few weeks, months. Don't look for it anytime soon.
Right.
But with the fictitious ships that both me and John are captains of, the Hornet and the Kitty Hawk, we will be making an audio drama for Spotify as well for our two ships and our story, so you can learn more about the crew that we have, the missions that we've been on, and stuff like that. So,
yeah, don't be looking forward
we're gonna have a
anytime
little bit
soon.
more fun with it. But yeah, don't be looking forward anytime soon. We only just started talking about it today. Matter of fact, so
And for those of you who are
it's
asking, why are you doing an audio drama? Why don't you guys just do a fan film? There is a reason for that.
they're illegal.
Well, they're not illegal. They're just heavily regulated. And the rules are stupid. However, the rules do not apply for the rules for fan films do not apply to audio dramas. Audio dramas are exempt. Therefore,
So we can make whatever story we want off an audio drama and make all the money that we want off the audio dramas without having to really turn it into Paramount CBS. Now, should something come down the pipe later, we'll figure that out when it comes, should it happen, but we're small enough right now, shit, we can't even get 3 viewers consecutively on a podcast episode, so. But here we are, episode 20, we're still doing it. Now, there's a good question that I ask a lot. I haven't been asking it of our past few guests, and I've been failing, but I'm going to try to make this a question that I ask our guests coming up. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. So, Lumen, if you're comfortable sharing, what got you into Star Trek? What or who got you into Star Trek, and who's your favorite character?
All right, rubs hands together like a fly. Let me set y'all down for a tall tale of Lumen's lore. It's actually a very awesome story. It was actually my grandma who got me into it, my lovely, lovely grandmother. Because as growing up, when I was a little lad, a little guy, she had all of the Star Trek movies on VHS tape, on DVD, all upstairs. And I once found a tape, and I don't remember which movie because it was so long ago. I think it was Wrath of Khan, but I could easily be wrong. But I asked about it, and my grandma. Oh yeah. And my grandma was like, "That's Star Trek," and I went, "Well, what's that? I've never even heard of the whatever it is." And so she sat me down. She immediately was like, "Okay, we're gonna watch everything from the beginning, up until this movie that you found and picked out." And so after that, I have been hooked ever since. My uncle and my grandmother both are huge Star Trek fans. They're old enough where they used to go out and actively watch them in the theater, which I think would be amazing to experience, and watching all of those movies in the theater. I would
pause real quick, because what's really funny, and for Star Trek fans, if you're listening and you live in Dallas, here's your hint. Okay, I can't do this. I would love to, and I'll tell you why I can't in just a second. But July 31st at the Dallas Theater, William Shatner will be there on stage in person to watch the Wrath of Khan in the Dallas Theater with us and do a kind of commentary along with the movie as we watch it. Now, the reason I can't go is July 31st is my daughter's birthday, or July 30th is my daughter's birthday. And yeah, it's the 30th, not the 31st. Anyway, it's my daughter's birthday, and as much as I would love to get my daughter into Star Trek and would love to take her out to do something like that, I'm not wasting her birthday to do something like that with her, not until she gets a little bit older and she asks for something like that specifically. So, as much as I hate missing out on something as cool as that, I won't be able to go. So, Star Trek fans in Dallas, get your ass down there, go, and then come report back onto the podcast. Let me know how it went. Let me know how awesome it was. Let me know if you meet William Shatner. Actually, don't do that. I'll be pissed at you. But yeah, okay, unpause.
Anyway.
That's amazing. That's super cool. Wish I could go. Too bad I can't. Very jealous. So I would have to say, growing up, a Star Trek has always been a huge comfort for me. And growing up, I watched a lot of The Next Generation. That one is another one that I just instantly fell in love with. So I think my two top favorites, you can't make me pick one. No one can make me pick one. It would have to be Data and Spock. Yes, basic answers. But fire me, you know?
Look, they're only basic answers because they are the best characters. All right, look, hands down, Trek people. The reason we love Spock and Data is because they're very engineering and science oriented. And what is Star Trek? It's science and engineering. All right, they're gonna be your favorite. You know, God, no, it's not a basic answer. It's everybody's answer because Star Trek fans have a higher mentality than Star Wars fans. There, I said it.
Honestly, I'm not going to say anything because my other family, like my mother and my little brothers, absolutely love Star Wars. They're more of the Star Wars fan than I am. Like, they love all of those movies.
If I turn my camera ever so slightly, you'll see my Star Wars
ever so slightly.
Star Wars shelf right there.
It's so tiny.
Oh, man. It's so tiny, it's so small. But yeah, there are reasons as to why those two are my favorite. I think just because growing up, Spock was like the first one with my little mind that I was like, he's me. He is me on so many different levels. Like, and Leonard Nimoy being an amazing actor, I will say though, technically my favorite Spock. Me and Chris have talked about this. We talked about it for I think like an hour or two about our favorite Spocks. Zachary Quino is one of my favorite actors who have ever portrayed Spock. And I think some reasons I am autistic and I am also part of the LGBTQ plus community. So seeing someone not being able to convey normal emotions like Data and like how Spock is always supposed to be a Vulcan and he's never meant to show his human side because, you know, that's seen as something bad. I was always told that being autistic was not very good. You know, it was weird. It wasn't right. So you had to settle for the norms. And there's this one episode that made me also fall in love with Data. It was one where he had to, oh goodness, I don't remember the name, but I remember the premise, where he wasn't seen as a being, and so he theoretically was not allowed to work on the Enterprise.
The Measure of a Man. Good
And
episode.
yeah, favorite episode. And him being told that, oh no, you're an it. You're not a he. You're an it.
You are
you're
property
not
of Starfleet.
Exactly. That kind of awakened something in me for being kind of a non-binary allegory and a trans allegory where you're always supposed to be seen as this one thing. You're not allowed to be open about anything. And me being non-binary, that was always the norm. You always had, oh, you're a girl, you like pink, or you're a boy, you like blue. You can't like any of these other different colors. But being non-binary, I'm that kind of purple color. I like either. Or I don't like any of the colors. So having an episode kind of around that opened that up to him being my favorite character. And so it's always, that's why those two are my favorites. But I think another one of, maybe not a favorite, but it's one of my grandma's favorites, Jean-Luc Picard. She loves him. She loves Sir Patrick Stewart. I love Sir Patrick Stewart. So
in all honesty, when it comes to favorite Trek characters, there's never really a wrong answer unless your favorite character is Sela. Then you are wrong.
You're absolutely
Better
wrong.
yourself. Sela is the only character in which you are wrong. You need to better yourself and think about your life choices. You don't want to sell me dust sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life. Okay, 100%. There's really no wrong answer with a favorite Star Trek character. Hell, Lumen, if you go back and watch some of the previous episodes up on YouTube, you'll hear me ask John and Carter and then say myself, it's so hard to narrow it down to one. Like the three of us, we can't do that. You know, narrowing it down to one is just absolutely impossible. Now, when it comes to a favorite villain, I can always narrow that down to one. Because top of the line, villain-wise, straight villain, always been a villain. It will be the Borg. Hands down. Don't get me wrong. I love the Klingons. I love the Klingons of the original series, but they've been such an ally for the rest of Trek that you can't consider them an enemy anymore. But anti-hero, Q. Hands down, it's Q. Q is the
Yes,
best
I was gonna say
anti-hero.
that.
Um,
I was gonna say he was another one of my favorite characters also growing up.
oh yeah.
One, because the voice actor plays as Discord in My Little Pony, and get a little hint for little fact for all you Star Trek and My Little Pony fans. There's a My Little Pony episode on season 9 where Granny Smith has a dream that she's on Star Trek, and Discord. She literally goes, "Discord is just being Discord," and I was like, "Yes, that's because Q is Discord," and it made my little Star Trek brain happy. So little fun fact for you. For your
William
for you
Shatner
factoids
was
of My
also
Little
on
Pony.
My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I remember because my little
William
sister was
Shatner's been
watching it. I
everywhere.
was sitting out in the living room just like dinking around on my phone. And I hear his voice. I'm like, wait a damn minute. And they even, in that episode he was in, they even used the tagline "Where no man has gone before." I was like, you have got to, like, the people making this show are fucking Star Trek fans. And that's just,
They're
my
nerds.
favorite thing.
They're nerds.
My favorite thing that William Shatner was in that wasn't Star Trek was the Enterprise commercials, the Enterprise car rental commercials.
yeah, I thought you were going to say
Because there was
TJ
always
Hooker.
Enterprise. Well, yeah, there was that too, but no, it's the Enterprise commercials because man, those have gone so far out of the fucking way. It's hilarious. Like there have been off the wall fucking memes made with William Shatner and Enterprise. Like the year 2016, the year I got to meet Captain Kirk, William Shatner, I built a model Enterprise, put it together, and when I went to go see him, I got to ask, he's out on stage, they're letting people come up and ask questions. I was one of the lucky ones that got to ask a question, and I go, I don't really have a question, more like a statement, and I handed him my little Enterprise. This is not it, by the way. This is a Lego set I got for Father's Day. Cool, right? I said, Enterprise, we'll pick you up. And he goes, that's great. That is awesome. I haven't heard that in years, and that is my favorite way of hearing it. Thank you so much. And I gifted him the Enterprise model. Don't know if he still has it. It'd be cool. He's probably got 1,000 of those things. Hell, he probably got rid of it. Maybe gave it to somebody. It doesn't matter. I still gave it to him. That's cool as shit. It's cool enough, but that's all I need, right? But no, William Shatner's been everywhere. But now, as far as the education, guys, let's get into this education bit.
Oh boy.
The thing I've seen the most is how the hell does a universal translator work? And where is a universal translator? Now, in older Star Trek shows, such as the original series, sometimes it was a little device that they held in their hands when they needed it. And a universal translator works a lot like Google Translate, okay? Every Star Trek series, it's Google Translate. Now you're thinking, well, Google Translate isn't that reliable. No shit. Neither is a universal translator. There are several times, especially if you want to watch a series where the universal translator is still in the works, watch Enterprise. Star Trek Enterprise is that series for you. It explains how it works, how they get it going, how all of it happens. Most now later series and later times, the universal translator is the comm badge. Okay, it's automatic, runs right through there. And so I've seen a lot of the questions, why the fuck do the aliens all speak perfect English? Because that's the way the show wants it perceived. There have been several other shows that when the alien species are talking to one another, they're talking in their native language, right? We see the Klingons speaking in Klingon. We see the Romulans speaking in Romulan. And we see the Vulcans speaking in Vulcan, so on and so forth.
Not very often, but
not very often, but you do see it. And the reason that when we're talking with them as Starfleet officers that we hear them in perfect English on the show is just because, one, it's easier to fucking do it that way, okay? First and foremost, y'all get over yourselves, okay? It's easier to fucking do it that way.
From a production standpoint.
Right. So they speak in perfect English, but if you're in the mindset of someone there, you can tell, or it's just in the back of your mind, you know that they're speaking in their alien language. We're only hearing them in English because the universal translator is translating at the same time they're fucking speaking. And so that's how. right? Now, there have been several alien species or several aliens in the Star Trek universe who were stated as having learned English to better communicate with their crew. Spock being one of those. T'Pol being another one. If you serve on a Starfleet vessel as an alien, 9 times out of 10, you're learning English because it's easier to communicate that way, but you can still, it doesn't really fucking matter. You can still talk in your alien language. Universal Translators got your back. All right? Sometimes it's wrong. Most of the time it's not. You know, Google Translate is really good the first time you use it. You know, Google Translate, as long as you don't translate it from, you know, Spanish to, you know, Portuguese to, you know, 1,000 different languages back to English, you're usually fucking fine. Usually, but
Usually.
you know, that's how the Universal Translator works. It's there, it's in the comm badge more often than not. It's a very basic thing, and the reason we hear them in English on the show is just because it's easier. It's easier to do it that way. It's very hard to construct an alien language. That's why out of all the alien languages that have ever been featured on Star Trek, there's only one that you'd ever be taught outside of Trek, and that's Klingon. You have the Rosetta Stone for Klingon, and that's because it's the one that's been majority used.
Rosetta Stone,
everything.
Duolingo, pretty much everybody has it now. I think Google Translate will even translate Klingon for you these days.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. They are working on a Vulcan course. I know a couple places have the Vulcan course, but it's still in the works for a lot of other places. They're still trying to figure out the Vulcan language. A lot of people want to hear it. A lot of people want to learn it because we've heard the Vulcan language all the way up since the original series. Hell, Amok Time is one of my favorite episodes because you hear the Vulcan language. It's the first time you get to see this. It's the first time you hear Live Long and Prosper. It's the first for a lot of Vulcan culture as far as Star Trek is concerned before it grew exponentially throughout the rest of the, you know, the franchise.
Universe.
Right. You know, so they're working on Vulcan, but yeah, you know, the translator just put two and two together, honestly, or just at that point in time, just keep watching your silly episodes and just don't worry about it. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter.
Just
If
keep
you want to
watching
worry about it, it's
and
cool.
shut the hell up.
Yeah. Now the other one is that I've seen recently is the communicator. You know, why does it change so often? This, that, and the other. My answer for why it changes is why did your cell phone change? The original cell phone was a brick. The second one was a flip phone based off of the original series communicator. Why is our cell phones fucking flat and a massive ass screen now? Because it's just better. Okay, the communicator works like a Bluetooth walkie-talkie, more or less. Okay, except for that walkie-talkie can, well, it has no range. As long as you were connected to the system, it has no fucking range. It's a fucking cell phone.
Very, very large range.
Well, true, yeah. But it's a fucking cell phone, more or less. Right. Just doesn't do all the gadgets. It's just a click, talk, and it hangs up for you. Real simple, real easy. You know, but how do they get it to work on the show? Basically, and the quick answer is for the show, a guy will be standing there on the stage. He'll say, I'll take TNG, for example, Riker to LaForge. How's it going in engineering? And a guy off camera will say, not Geordi LaForge, not LeVar Burton, but a guy off camera on set will say whatever LeVar Burton's lines are for Riker to respond. And then later in post-production, LeVar Burton will either be on set himself re-saying the line, if they're going to do a camera shot to camera shot, or if they're just going to show Riker the whole time, he'll be in a booth later on recording the line as a voice acting line. And it's very simple, very quick. One, two, like that. More or less.
It's a very well-known like trick that a lot of like movies use. They do it in Supernatural, when people are calling, they'll have Bobby on the other side of the other phone, or they'll have Bobby calling Dean or Sam. It's a very, I don't know why it's so mind-boggling to people, but it's such a well-known
Studio trick.
thing. Yeah, studio trick.
Yeah.
It's a well-known studio technique, I should say.
Technique. That's a good. I like that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hey, don't steal my word. It's my word.
Yeah, you know, it works like a cell phone. It works like a Bluetooth, you know, little device. It's very quick, and you know the honestly the communicator badge, the basis behind it gave birth to Bluetooth entirely. Like the idea of Bluetooth wasn't a thing until people started watching Star Trek and go, "Ooh, that looks cool. I want to do that." You know, it's you know, it goes back to what we've been saying all along throughout the podcast. Star Trek has given birth to a lot of the things that you use daily. You don't even fucking know it. You know,
Mhm.
Laptops, tablets, like flat screen
Yeah.
TV, you know?
Google Translate was born because of the Universal Translator from Star Trek. Like literally, that was the whole reason for it. Was, hey, if alien species on a show could talk to each other, you know, very easily, we should be able to, as a human species, talk to each other on this planet very easily. Let's figure that out. And Google's like, I got you, bro. It was very simple shit. You know, why people are so baffled by it on Star Trek TikTok, I don't understand. Like I said, I think it's mostly the guys that are brand new to Trek. But I feel as an old time Trek guy, and I have to say that now because I'm 28 years old and I've had 28 years of, you know, Trek knowledge now. It's, you know, it's
Well, if it makes you feel
I
any
have
better,
to. I
I'm
get
not far
myself
behind
up
you.
there. Yeah,
I'm the youngest here, I fear. I'm going to be 21 this year.
but you know, it's like I said, I feel like it's my position to educate you guys. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna go through all of it. How does warp work? We don't fucking know.
We are millions.
We just
years
Warp
away
is
from
just warp.
understanding.
That's all we got for you.
no warp, warp, like warp one. Warp, yeah.
What?
No, warp is just warp. How does warp work? Diligently, honorably. That's how
Yeah.
warp works. Warp, on the other
Slight
hand,
snarky, with some slight snarky comeback.
the easiest way I can explain warp to you is warp is faster than the speed of light to the power of the 10th degree. So, warp 1. If you're flying at warp 1, you're technically flying 10 times faster than the speed of light. So, if say you're on one planet and your moon is 10 light years away, at warp 1, you'll be at your moon like that. Okay, that's warp 1. Warp 2 is 20 times faster than the speed of light, so on and so forth as you go through the warp.
They
warp
actually
fields,
had
whatever.
to redo the scale like forever ago because they were getting way too creative with it in the original series. So when you hear like
Yes, they were.
Warp 14 in the original series, it is not the same as Warp 14 in the Next Generation. It's like Warp 8.
Yeah, it's
something along those lines.
Series, yeah, with the original series, there's a lot of give and take when it comes to the original series for what lays down into Trek canon, Trek lore, because when the original series was built, it was a one-off series. It was always going to be a one-off series. They never planned anything else. Not the movies, not Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, so on and so forth. None of that shit was planned. It was a one-off. Let's just have some fucking fun with this shit. Like I said last week, I watch a lot of documentaries. Watch some of the ones with DC Fontana. She will let you know that they were just writing shit just to write shit. They were like, this sounds cool, let's do it. And if they had to find a technical way to get it done, more or less, they would come up with a bullshit answer. The tractor beam, the original tractor beam was not a beam. There was no beam there. It was just all of a sudden you press a button and now this thing is following you. Mostly because they didn't have the forethought or the budget to animate a beam in there or place a beam there. So but yeah, warp from TNG onward, warp is more or less 10 times the power or 10 times the speed of light for warp 1, so on and so forth. We do have scientists that are trying to figure out warp speed. There is a working model of a warp capable engine, but truthfully what it is, if you watch Enterprise, again, Enterprise is a very good series for explaining a lot of what happens in Trek, because Enterprise is, of course, the very beginning of Starfleet. You don't even have the Federation when it comes to Enterprise. The Federation is born at the end of Enterprise. As much as I dislike that series, or at least dislike Captain Archer, a lot of that series does build our knowledge for what we know as Trek fans. Warp is the reason it's called warp is because you're warping space. More or less, the status behind it. Or if you watch the 2009 Star Trek movie, and Leonard Nimoy's Spock gives Simon Pegg's Scotty the equation for beaming onto a starship at warp, and Scotty says, it never occurred to me to think of space as a thing that's moving. That's what warp is. More or less, your ship is stationary and it's warping space around the spaceship. The spaceship is stationary the whole fucking time.
I actually did a presentation on this.
Thank you, baby.
So,
I'm like,
Oh.
oh, you didn't disagree, but I am right.
I'll get you. I'll make it look like a bloody accident.
What? Hey, what?
okay.
Sorry.
Hey, whoa, hey, calm down there.
But,
Well, when you kind of describe it that way, I kind of see it like how a river is. Like you have just a rock there,
So
and it's always stationary as the river's going around it. That's how I kind of see it.
this is how I explained it in high school, and I feel like this is a very good explanation. So this is space, okay? Everybody see the paper? The paper is space. This pen is your ship. What happens when you engage the warp drive is the paper will warp around your ship, and it moves you. It moves you. You do not move it. You're not moving through it. It is moving around you. Is basically how that works.
That is like the perfect description, though. Honestly, like that is how I would describe it to
Like
someone
I
who
said,
had
I
never
did a
seen.
presentation on this in high school. Granted, that was like I did that presentation like 10 years ago, but that was the longest short of it.
It still holds to this day, though. Like it's such a simplified version, though. That I could describe it to a kid who's never seen Star Trek, and they're like, "Well, what's warp? What's that? How's it work?" Like this, little Timmy.
Yeah.
Like this little Jimothy.
Jim is like this.
Jennifer.
Next,
I
I
like
have
Jimifer.
I like that. I'm stealing that.
next I have, why are the starships in Star Trek so non-aerodynamic? Okay.
Because they're in space. Sorry, I had to say.
Because they need to look cool.
Space has,
Yeah.
You're in space. Space has no air, so aerodynamics does not necessarily apply in space, more or less.
I like my explanation better.
But also, yeah,
Yeah, right.
the real answer given by DC Fontana, given by Gene Roddenberry, because I wanted it to look cool.
Exactly.
why.
Like because it's
That's
cool.
why. That's why it looks that way.
Actually, the
Now-
original
now-
design for the Enterprise makes it upside down, believe it or not.
I
That's
hate
cool.
that.
I like that.
It's just
Now the Star
I need
Trek
a ship like
did
that.
throughout the years get a little bit more aerodynamic. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at
you look at the Enterprise D.
look at the Excelsior class right here. It is all in a line. Okay. The nacelles stick out just enough over the dish to kind of give it that cool look everybody loves of seeing, the nacelles just above the dish to make it look more menacing, more powerful. But more or less, it's all streamlined in a line. It's very round. It's going to move very aerodynamically. The Enterprise D, the Galaxy class, another very aerodynamic ship. As we moved on, the ships did get a little bit more aerodynamic, but originally it was just more or less one. The true answer is Gene Roddenberry just wanted the ship to look cool. The real answer, the space answer, the engineering answer is there's no air in space, so why does it need to be aerodynamic? As long as it's moving, space is not moving, so there's no air.
The only ever time I would say, oh, it needs to be aerodynamic is if they're going to a place with air. But at the same time, they aren't really landing the USS Enterprise anywhere.
And I mean,
Or
right,
going
and more or
anywhere
less,
where
that's
it
where
would
the
need to be
shuttlecrafts.
aerodynamic.
yeah, that's where
Yeah, that's
shuttlecrafts
where
come in.
shuttlecrafts
The
come in.
shuttlecrafts have always been at least
Exactly.
a little bit
And
aerodynamic.
aerodynamic.
The originals, but
Well,
that's
Okay.
beside the point.
The Galileo is aerodynamic the same way a fucking minivan from the 60s was aerodynamic.
Fair enough.
Like, it wasn't moving very fast, but hey, it was moving. And as we see later on, the shuttlecraft do get a little bit more aerodynamic themselves. But, the Galileo was, in all honesty, the original shuttlecrafts were about the size of a full-size van. So,
Maybe
the
a little bit
aerodynamics of that
wider, but
look-
roughly about the same size.
a little bit wider. But yeah, so there's that answer. Why does every species have different looking ships? Why does
why not?
China's
So you can
battleships
tell
look
them
different
apart?
from the US's battleships?
It's like saying, why does this art look different than this art? Well, because a different artist drew it. Duh. Sorry.
Right. Right, like why does the Airbus A380 look different from the Boeing 747? Because they're two different people making two different planes. Yeah, that's that answer. But I have
Why does
seen
this
that question
jet look
asked,
different than
and
this
it was
jet?
like, the heck.
So you can
But again,
tell them apart,
Also,
you
they're
ding dong.
cool.
we're here for education. I did get an answer. Why did the Romulans and the Klingons use both the words "bird of prey" in some of their vessels? That is because
Great question.
the true answer is because the writers' room got fucking lazy. That's just it. The writers' room, they were working on several different episodes. One required a Klingon bird of prey, and they're like, oh, bird of prey sounds really cool. We're going to make it look like this. Hell yeah. And then they made that episode. And then a few weeks later, they made, a Romulan episode. And they were like, what should we call this? Bird of prey sounds menacing. Didn't we already? Who cares? Fuck it. And they wrote it in. And then they were like, well, this starship doesn't necessarily look that much like a bird. We'll slap a bird on the bottom of it, call it a day.
Originally, the Romulans were the ones who had the birds of prey. You didn't get a bird
Right.
of prey in the original series at all. You didn't get a bird of prey until a Klingon bird of prey until the movies.
That's true.
Until then, Klingon ships were just called battle cruisers. Like, hey, there's a Klingon battle cruiser. Which, yes, the Romulans did get some too, but they were kind of on their last leg at season 3 anyway. But they did come up with an in-universe reason. The Romulans got those D7 battle cruisers, and the Klingons got cloaking devices.
Ooh,
Is
that's
the
cool.
in-universe explanation for that.
Headcanon version, the Klingons were like, that's a cool name. We want it. We're going to use it. Who cares what the Romulans say? It's our name now.
That would pretty Klingon. That would be pretty lore accurate for the Klingons. Like, I don't give a shit what the
Irony, guys.
Romulans
Come
think.
on.
They can go shove it up their ass.
Exactly. I don't care what they say. We're the fucking Klingons. We're gonna name it Birds of Prey. We don't care. What are they gonna do? Kill us?
Yeah, and see, personally, my favorite part about it is, like, the reason the Romulans and the Klingons had the same battle cruisers looks for a little bit. Why did Iran get F-14 Tomcats? We sold them to them.
Yeah.
One of those nations fell into some bad
Well-
times. They needed some extra money, so
And that's exactly the
They
reason,
call-
except instead of paying for them, they just traded them for cloaking devices.
right.
Exactly.
So a very
So-
real world and a very, very explainable answer.
Yeah. Let's see. One of the other ones. How does the phaser work? The phaser is more or less a very tightened laser that can be focused several different ways using a bunch of mirrors and stuff like that throughout the device that can make it burn
And it uses
anything.
photons.
Yeah.
It's a photon
Um,
laser, hence how we get phaser.
Phaser.
Spelled with PH.
Matter of fact, if you look at this one, you can see, it got a little mirror right there. There's some, the design. There are blueprints of a phaser, down in there. All across shit. But let me turn this on real quick because I'll show you. Stop being a dick.
You have it on the right mode.
There we go. The little crystal up inside too that kind of helps it. It's a dilithium crystal. Dilithium crystals run a lot in Star Trek, including the ships. You can't have a warp core without dilithium crystals. Can't have a lot of shit without dilithium crystals. So, you just turn off now. Thank you.
When John said, "Do you have it on the right mode?" It makes me think of that one scene in the movie.
And the 2009 movie.
And
Is the parking brake on? No, sir.
Yes.
did you try something?
And then, yeah, did you
Did you-
release the something or other? In other words, the parking brake was fucking on, you dipshit.
Okay, we're ready now. All right. Punch it.
So I've got a question coming from a fan perspective. I feel like someone would ask, what are the crystals and how were they, harvested and where did they come from? Because
I
I
am
actually always
so
wondered
glad you asked.
That's John. That's good.
That's my area of expertise. Is so the way a warp core runs, you have your matter and your antimatter. The matter was made out of deuterium. Antimatter is the anti-deuterium, and they are funneled through a set of dilithium crystals. As far as harvesting methods, it's all mined. It's all mined and or synthesized. I think the antimatter, the anti-deuterium, is synthesized. I could be wrong about that, but deuterium itself is mined, and I think antimatter, anti-deuterium is synthesized from the deuterium. And so each of that are funneled into the warp core, and it gets filtered through these dilithium crystals, which are also mined, as Chris here will attest to. We have mined several of them in video games.
Mhm.
And what that does is it creates a massive explosion because you're it's I'm trying to think of a simple way to explain it. Two things that are not supposed to go together. And they make a big old boom, which channels a shitload of energy, just like a bomb. Basically, a warp core is a gigantic regulated bomb.
The warp core, more or less, the only reason it's not called a nuclear warp core is because you're using dilithium rather than uranium. But uranium, it does the same thing that a nuclear bomb does, more or less. So if you kind of know the mechanics behind a nuclear bomb, you know the mechanics behind a warp core, more or less. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into each and every different one. But as far as where the dilithium crystals come from, The in-universe answer is they come from a plethora of places. They could be inside a planet's core. They could be on asteroids. They could be in a plethora of places. It just kind of depends. More or less comes down to where do the writers want it to be. There have been several planets throughout the entirety of Trek's history talking about, oh, we got to stop off here to get some more dilithium. You know, oh, we're running low on dilithium crystals. We're gonna need them. Where's the nearest place? This planet or this mining colony over here has them. So that's about where they come from, and they work more or less just like fuck. They work kind of like a chamber. They work kind of like a focusing chamber to make the ship do what it needs to do. For as far as the phaser goes, it works kind of like another mirror inside the phaser that helps really focus the laser beam, so that you don't have to fill the whole fucking phaser with a bunch of fucking mirrors and shit. You just kind of get a couple, put that dilithium crystal right there, and boom, you know, you can focus it and do whatever you needed to do with it. But yeah, that's the easy-ish kind of answer for dilithium crystals.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for educating me, because I actually have always wondered that, because I know in Star Trek they always mention it, and I'm like, what is that? How does it work? Like, what?
I could go into more detail, but I don't want to put you to sleep.
Honestly, you could never put me to sleep with that.
Well, I don't want to put anybody else to sleep.
John's talking about himself again. No. Hey, John's fallen asleep on this podcast before. Don't get mad at me.
I have. It's the truth. I have had to edit it out of at least 2 episodes where my happy butt fell the fuck asleep because we were sitting here playing video games for the podcast instead of something else.
That's kind of funny.
It's kind of hard for me to fall asleep on these ones because I'm in a different chair. It's complicated.
Honestly valid though, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and while I was editing, I think it was like episode 2. Like I fell asleep.
No, it was episode 3. It was episode 3. You're telling me about this. You were the first time you edited episode 3.
No, because I just did episode 3. It was episode 2.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. Because as I was going through and editing it, I could hear myself snoring. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, I remember getting a message from you, because I texted you a little bit earlier in the day. I was like, hey, buddy, you up to game? And I didn't hear anything, so I just kept gaming by myself. And then all of a sudden, I got a message from you. Like, yeah, man, sorry, I just woke up. I was editing one of the episodes, and I was apparently asleep on the episode, too, because all I heard was your voice saying, hey, buddy, wake up. And I wake up, and I'm like, oh, I'm still editing the episode. And here I am asleep on the episode. You're trying to get me to wake up.
I fell asleep, editing the damn episode. Right before that, I just found myself like sleeping on the podcast. I could hear myself snoring it like, and I was like, "What the fuck?" It's like, God damn it!
That's so funny though. I love that.
But speaking of episode 3, guys, for those of you that want to listen to this on Spotify, episode 3 is up on Spotify. I know, 17 episodes behind, but we're getting there. All right, I don't want to hear nothing from you guys.
I'm working on it.
You'll get your content when you get it. You filthy, greedy bastards.
Yeah, these in all fairness, these episodes might be getting less and less edited because I don't feel like listening to 3 hours every fucking time I go to edit one. I might just edit out.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind that the episodes might be getting more and more explicit.
Yeah, this is now a rated R podcast. I mean, it always has been, but like,
oh yeah, no, I always check the box. Like, yeah, this has explicit content. That way, nobody can say that they weren't warned.
I'm kidding.
I mean, hell, the name is Task Force HR. I mean, yeah, sure, it took us a little bit to get that name, but you guys know what you're signing up for when you listen to the name Task Force HR. Okay,
He is the entire
we
reason
are
we're
still-
called Task Force HR.
I am not.
You started it.
It's not my fault.
It is.
Look at what she's wearing. Okay,
That's not an excuse.
it's not my fault that you made Haley a bubble-headed blonde with massive tits, a decent ass, and put her in a Trek uniform. It's happening.
Nope, still his fault. I refuse to take blame for it. Nope, I can't take blame for anything. Every HR violation is on you.
Not every single one of them. Carter has a few under his name.
Yeah, but he's on your ship, and if I'm not mistaken, a captain must take responsibility for the actions of those under his command.
Ejectocito, cuz.
Oh man.
I'm totally not going to say this to my mom when it comes out.
Back to the education portion of this shit.
If Chris can ever catch his breath.
Why aren't there any TVs in Star Trek? Why do we not talk about other shows in Star Trek? Okay, well, Strange New Worlds and Enterprise were very good about having a movie night on board the Enterprise. So that you'll hear about some movies and some older movies. I mean, even for the time those shows were coming out, older movies being seen on the Enterprises, respectively, Enterprise and Strange New Worlds. But the majority reason is why don't sailors on a naval vessel watch TV and talk about TV? They're there to do a job, more or less. There have been several scenes where, you go to the captain's quarters on the on TNG, the Enterprise D, and there's something that resembles a screen in the background, but it's off at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Picard does have a TV in his room. There are still TV shows being made in the Star Trek universe on Earth.
And if you think about it, even in Next Gen, everybody has one of those little terminals.
Yeah.
Or they have a pad which has all of that stuff on it. So
Right,
they
so-
have it in just a more readily available form than, say, a television.
Right. So but the reason we don't talk about it, the reason we don't see them, the reason we don't talk about the shows that might be being produced at the time is, one, TV evolves. Like, exponentially, it will always evolve. There will never be a set designated TV style, right? So
Not
they
to
don't know
mention,
what's going to be written at that point in time.
not to
Two,
mention that
they-
TNG answered this by having holodecks.
Right. Secondly, you're watching a show about space. They're going on these extravagant adventures. They're doing these awesome things. Why the fuck do you want to hear about them watching their new show about whatever the fuck they want to watch about? Okay. Like, what? I mean, I know who's asking this question. I know who it is. And you true crime girlies, you're going to be mad at this one. But we're not watching Star Trek to watch the true crime documentary about Khan Noonien Singh, okay? We're not watching Star Trek to watch the true crime documentary about Dr. Soong, okay? We're battling Khan Noonien Singh. We're battling Dr. Soong, okay? We don't need to watch the true crime documentaries. Now again, fan films are very restricted. But audio dramas aren't. If you want to make the true crime documentary about Khan Noonien Singh, do it. I'd be more than happy to listen to it because that's cool as shit. but I don't want to watch it on my Star Trek. I don't want to hear about it on my Star Trek. I want to go out and fight that motherfucker, right? I want to go out and do the cool stuff. I want to look at the new planet. I want to look at the shiny new alien that Kirk's trying to fuck.
Well,
Okay.
okay. I have a counter argument to that. I think it'd be funny if, like, in between acts, in between scenes, like in their downtime, like just to hear them like talking about it.
I mean,
Like, oh
yeah,
hey,
I mean,
did
maybe
you
not
catch
talking
this?
about it a little.
Yeah, not like
they
a
do seem
lot, but
similar,
like,
though, that I
hey,
remember.
you know.
I mean, I
Welcome,
remember
Caitlin.
some episodes where they do mention like researching stuff, like with Data. You know, I think it was learning how to play the violin or something, where he, you know, learned that way by watching something. But they do mention watching things and researching in that way. They just don't explicitly show it.
Yeah.
Unless it's on the holodeck.
And so again, you know, and the real big answer for why they don't show it is because for them to show something that has already been made, you're going to be now asking the question, okay, why is a show based in the 24th century watching something from the fucking 80s? Right? That would be my question. Again, I know why. The real answer would be, well, because the show was made in the 80s, dipshit. They, you know, 24th century hasn't happened. But again, that's going to be your big question, because if you're asking this question, you're going to ask that one if they show it. So I'm going to hit that nail on the head right now. We're not answering that one. But
A double-edged sword with those kinds of questions. Like, if it did happen, they wouldn't be asking that. Like, why are they showing that? Like, you know, another lore answer kind of thing would be, well, maybe they found a very old look into the 80s all the way back then.
Right, because
time capsule.
Yeah, because these shows have a limited budget. You know, now if they're gonna make an episode,
also copyright. Like, copyright is a huge part of that too.
Yeah,
I mean, if they show a Paramount show, like that would be the only way they could get around that.
But also, like, okay, if you're gonna make an episode of Star Trek based on them watching TV or something like that, not only do you have to make the Star Trek show, you have to make the show that they're watching if you're gonna make it a 24th, 23rd, 22nd century show that they're watching, that they're talking about, because if you're going to show it at all. So that gets pretty fucking expensive, because now you have to bring in these other people that aren't Star Trek actors to act in this thing. Because, oh, sure, you could take some of the Star Trek actors out of Trek and put them on the show, but you can only do that with the aliens that have, like, face coverings. Because you can't just take the ears off of Spock and tell Ethan Peck to go stand in front of that camera and be a different fucking person. Because you, as the viewer, are going to be like, that's fucking Spock. Now, we can explain it as in the, look, it's Spock's doppelganger kind of theory thing, but that's a cop-out answer.
Honestly, that's something I could see like Lower Decks doing. Quite honest with you.
Right.
Just for the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah. But, you know, there's that. Now, one of the questions that I saw that I was actually I asked this question myself, so I don't have an answer for you. Why did Q never get his own show? Why never get his own movie with TNG cast? I don't fucking know, because Paramount dropped the ball. Okay, that's the only answer I got, is Paramount dropped the fucking ball there, because Q could absolutely sustain his own show. A TNG movie with Q would have been phenomenal. I've talked about it over the last few episodes that we've done talking about the TNG movies. I want one. I would love to get one now. We got him back in Picard, in the Picard series. We got him back doing his little fucking hijinks in Picard, but it wasn't enough, okay? I will never not want Q in my life, in my Star Trek. I fucking love Q. Give me more. Give me a movie. Give me a Q show. Now, I don't think it's possible now, because John Delancey is getting up there in age, and to, you know, make him a younger version of himself takes a lot of editing, which means a bigger budget is needed, which Paramount's already kind of like, I don't know about Star Trek shows right now because of the Skydance takeover that I talked about last week. So I just don't think it's going to happen. At least not right now. Maybe later in the future. Hell, we might even get a different person to play Q later in the future for a Q show. I would be down for that. Hell, we've seen a younger version of Guinan in the Picard series, and I absolutely loved that version of Guinan. That actress is a phenomenal actress. She's wonderful, and she plays Guinan the way you just know a younger Guinan would be. Because we see Guinan in roughly her mid 300s, somewhere in that era. And when we're seeing Guinan on Picard, she's kind of in her 20s, 30s. For us, that's like, okay, we're starting to mellow out as a human species. As an Elorian, that's your teenage years, dude. That's when you start rebelling. And I fucking loved seeing the rebel side of Guinan. I really did. Because meeting her on Next Generation, she's got some stories. She did some shit when she was younger that she just ain't talking about because legal reasons. But, getting to see some of those stories, getting to go through that with Picard, phenomenal. So, again, I would love to see Q in that same light. Give me a younger version of Q. Let me go through Q's life with him.
But even then, like, Q is so omnipotent. He could just easily make himself younger with a snap of his fingers. That's another way that we could have a younger actor as well, because of how the Q. What? Oh my God, it's leaving my brain.
The Q.
So, like how his species work. Yeah, the Q.
I have the intro for you, Paramount. I have the intro for you. John Delancey standing there. You silly humans. I bet you're wondering about me. As you should. Well, to tell you, I'm going to have to take you back a few years. Computer, start the backtrack. Boom.
Exactly.
The snap, white
computer starts playing Bob O'Reilly by The Who.
And then fucking boom. Younger actor for Q. Hi, my name is Chris, and I throw my hat in the ring.
No, me. I love Q. I could probably do it.
I mean, listen to the podcast, Paramount. I'm chaos incarnate, all right? I am perfect for this role. I was born for this shit.
He was.
Yeah, that's an answer I've been trying to get answered myself. It's mostly Paramount dropped the ball. Paramount didn't see at the time. And this is the shitty part. I've actually done the research on this. The ratings for Q episodes were slightly lower than the rest of the Next Generation. Not by much, but slightly lower. So the studio really didn't think Q would be a viable person to put in a movie. Which is why they dropped the ball. Because they failed, ultimately. They didn't let the right generation have Q.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You put them in the right show.
Oh yeah.
You just gave that show out a little too early. It's much like Star Wars and Hayden Christensen, right? The original trilogy fans fucking hated him, and it took us 20 years to get older and get our voices heard enough for Hayden to go, "Oh shit, I wasn't terrible. I wasn't shit. People do love me. People do love my character." Same with the guy that played Jar Jar in Phantom Menace.
I still don't like the
I'm
character
sorry.
of Jar Jar. I like the actor. I'm sure he's a great guy.
Look, if you don't like Jar Jar, I don't trust you. 100%. I've always said that. If you don't like Jar Jar, I don't trust you. Because Jar Jar was, look, I fucking loved Jar Jar. I've always loved Jar Jar. I'm one of the fans. I wanted the Dark Jar Jar timeline. I want that to be true. I want that to be canon. Give me Darth Jar Jar. Because it's there.
See, and I'm one of the people who, like, until they make that canon, I don't really like him as a character.
This is my Jar Jar from Phantom Menace, where he's about to go light the thing.
Him. Give him a hug for me.
Look at his eyes. Those are Sith yellow. Those are Sith yellow eyes. This motherfucker, and look at him. Look at his expression.
Chaotic evil.
That is an evil
Chaotic
face.
evil. The most evil on the D&D spectrum,
No,
but in a
I-
silly, dumb way.
in all honesty, it was mostly because the ratings for those episodes were slightly lower than any other. But I mean, if you just look at Star Trek: The Next Generation, it was hard as hell for them to get off the fucking ground, anyways, because of the original series fans.
Yep.
That's beside the point. You know, eventually it grew into Trek popularity so much so that a lot of people want to debate it over the original series, and then every other series is neglected more or less when it comes to talking about superior Trek. But beside the fucking point, was one of the other ones that I've read. Now, I don't know if I have any others for you, but I do have a very lovely article for us. I just found this one earlier today, matter of fact. I just found this one. So it's from Screen Rant. I know, guys, I hear you. We have our problems with Screen Rant. But this one is from somebody we haven't read from before. It is by Robert Wood, posted a day ago. So this is probably why I just found this. After 59 years, Star Trek officially retires an original series icon. I've done all I can. So that title really jumped out to me, grabbed my attention. I want to read this. I hope to God, Robert, don't be Chris. Don't be, who's that other guy? Paul or Greg? Some other, whoever the fuck. Be Rachel from Screen Rant. All right, that's all I'm asking, Robert, here. Just be Rachel from Screen Rant. After almost 6 decades, the Star Trek franchise has officially retired one of its most iconic heroes. In its modern stories, Star Trek has shown a fondness for jumping around the timeline, offering opportunities to see the untold stories of its most beloved characters. Now, with a heartwarming reunion, the story of one of those characters has been brought to a close. Star Trek officially retires Montgomery Scotty Scott. The original series icon ends a record-setting Starfleet career. The historic moment comes in today's Star Trek Omega, which concludes the Lone War event, where Data's psychopathic brother took control of reality. In the aftermath, Montgomery Scotty finally announces his retirement, reuniting with Nyota Uhura and offering Starfleet some parting words. Note, Star Trek Omega comes from Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, Christopher Cantwell, Oleg I'm not even going to try that one. Fuck that. Joe Yzma, Mike Finn, Tess Fowler, Angel Hernandez, a whole bunch of other people. Okay. First introduced in 1966 is Where No Man Has Gone Before, the third episode of the original series, Scotty was played by James Doohan and also Simon Pegg in the big screen Kelvin timeline. And it starred in over 80 television episodes and 6 movies in Star Trek canon, as well as a variety of spin-off media. While Doohan sadly passed away in 2005, his likeness has been used in comic stories and even on TV, utilizing archival footage. Now, however, Doohan's character finally says goodbye to fans.
What?
Okay, so that's what this is. Okay. All right, I figured it out. I know what they're talking about now. I know what they're saying. Basically, when it comes to Star Trek comics and footage and all that other stuff, they will no longer be using James Doohan's likeness. James Doohan as Scotty in this comic, Star Trek Omega, is retired. So I'm guessing that we're going to probably start using maybe the new guy that's been playing Scotty on Strange New Worlds, or maybe even Simon Pegg's likeness. I don't know. But basically, that they're retiring James Doohan's likeness. If they don't give an in loving memory at the end of that comic book for James Doohan, I'll be pissed. I'm going to say that now. I will be fucking pissed because he never got his in Star Trek shows, and he deserves one. Everybody, again, we've been over this. Everybody else got theirs. He never did. So give him in loving memory. James Doohan at the end of that book. I'll buy 50 of them. James Doohan Scotty is probably one of my favorites of all the engineers ever on Star Trek. Don't get me wrong, Chief O'Brien is a very close second of mine. I mean, because Geordi and Scotty are number one, tied. There is no, I can't decide. But I love Scotty and I love James Doohan Scotty the most. The miracle worker, the always finding a workaround guy. And I love that they gave him a final story with Nyota Uhura, whose likeness has been Nichelle Nichols. And I love that those guys have been carried on so long in the comic books. You know, long after their passings, it's been in the comic books. And it just makes me so happy that that is, you know, still going on. But that's what it is. They're retiring his likeness, James Doohan's likeness as Scotty in the comic books. So there we go. I thought they were just going to outright get rid of an entire character, and I'm going to be like, that's why I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Because Strange New Worlds hasn't talked about a character, you know, a few characters from the original series just yet. And I'm like, if you're going to tell me that we're not getting Bones, I will fucking riot. I will. I want Bones on Strange New Worlds. I do. Because I want the Holy Trinity back. I want the banter back. Give me Spock, Kirk, and Bones on Strange New Worlds going at it. Please.
Well, if they're going to do it, they've only got 2 more seasons left to do it.
Yep. 2.5, actually. Well, 1.5, actually.
True, because yeah, season 3 is already done.
Yeah, season 3 is done. They're filming 4 and they're shortening 5 to 6 episodes. So, again, Skydance, if you finally finish taking over Paramount and you sell off Star Trek, sell it to Seth MacFarlane. There are no other options, or sell it to me. I'm an option. Huh?
Or me.
Yeah, or John. John's an option too. Well, sell it to the 2 captains, 1 pod. Sell it to us, because I can't afford that shit on my own. And let's be honest, John, neither can you. As much as we'd love to say we do, but the podcast can afford it.
Unless I win the fucking lottery, which I don't see happening anytime soon.
No. You got a better chance at meeting the real Batman before you win the lottery.
But if I do, we all know what's going to happen.
Hey, look, if I ever meet the real Batman, trust and believe I'm buying a lottery ticket that day. Or I'll know that I'm actually dead because holy shit, I'm in heaven. There's the real Batman. But no, here's one of the other questions I found. Nacelles and engines, what's the fucking difference?
Well,
okay.
Here's the thing.
The nacelles are used mostly for warp propulsion.
Nacelles are used to generate the warp field.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that warps space and allows you to, yeah. The engines, or otherwise the impulse engines, are actually powered by fusion reactors, and they're made for slower than light movement.
So I'm going to turn this on for you guys so you can see the lights, and I can show you kind of what we're talking about here. This is an Excelsior class, the refit Excelsior class, mind you. So for the Excelsior class, these are your impulse engines right here. These are your nacelles. Your nacelles are always the ones sticking out. For the original Enterprise, your engine and engine room is like right here. there's nothing on this Lego model because it's a real small one. But
Yep.
then again, these are your nacelles. Your nacelles are always the kind of things, you know, a little sticky outy bit. Some ships have them down
Nacelles are the
here.
long
Some ships
ones.
have four,
The other ones are
three.
around the disc
Yeah.
for people who can't see the video.
So, and the reason I say this is the refit is if you take these guys off and round this out, that's your original Excelsior class, is what that looks like.
And you take some extra bits off the nacelle.
Yeah.
But nacelles are usually towards the back of the ship. In fact, I think dang near every one of them has had nacelles towards the back.
Here's
But-
your unrefit
And there
Excelsior class.
used to be rules. And there's a reason I say used to be. It used to be that this comes from Gene Roddenberry, the man himself. Nacelles always had to be in pairs. You couldn't have 3, you couldn't have 5, so on and so forth. And I think the rule
Couldn't have one.
Yeah, you can't have one. You have to have them in pairs. I think the nacelles always had to. Damn, I can't remember all of them. I remember the pairs rule, but that's about it.
The original ones, I believe, was like they had to be towards the rear of the ship and they had to be upwards. I don't think he really allowed the bottom to be nacelles other than for the shuttlecraft, because shuttlecraft had bottom nacelles if they had them at all, which, well, I guess shuttlecraft don't, but the runabouts do. The runabouts have nacelles. And we'll get to the difference between those in just a second.
Here they are. Rule number 1, nacelles must be in pairs. Rule number 2, warp nacelles must have at least 50% line of sight on each other from across the hull, so they have to be basically looking at each other. Rule number 3, both warp nacelles must be fully visible from the front, so if you're looking at the ship from the front of it, you have to be able to see it. Rule number
Like
4,
this.
yes. Rule number 4, the bridge must be located at the top center of the primary hull. Those were Gene Roddenberry's original design rules for starships.
And for those of you that are watching the YouTube, the primary hull for most starships
Is the
is your
saucer
disc.
section. Yep.
Okay. This is your secondary hull right here.
Secondary
bottom
hull
part of the ship
and
is
or drive
secondary.
section.
Right.
Obviously, those rules were only followed for not very long.
Yeah,
You can kind of tell the shift if you're watching Next Generation. You can kind of tell the shift of when the rules were no longer followed, because when the show starts going from created by Gene Roddenberry to based on Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry, that's when the fun nacelles start coming about. It was literally we had to wait till Gene Roddenberry passed away to kind of get some of the stuff they wanted to do. Or no, it was when they kicked him off the show, more or less.
Because if you
Yeah.
remember right, we started getting all the fun nacelles in Best of Both Worlds. We
That's
started
right.
having
That's
one
right.
nacelle ships, 3 nacelle ships, all this kinds of wacky shit.
Mhm.
And not to mention, even before that, you had stuff like the Nebula class. In the
And for
movies,
those of
you
you-
had the Oberth class.
As for education purposes, it sounds like we shit on Gene Roddenberry. We don't. Okay. The thing is, Gene Roddenberry was very particular about his vision. And the people he was working with wanted to follow that vision,
As much as they possibly
but kind of make
could.
it their own. And Gene Roddenberry was very strict about where he would let people take that vision that he had and warp it, work with it, whatever. It's very. There was a lot of bad blood, especially on TNG, when it came between the writers, the producers, directors, and Gene Roddenberry. Michael Piller, who I have my own ifs, ands, and buts about. Mark, what's his face? Mark Berman.
Berman?
You know, they were the big guys that kind of took over Trek once they more or less forced Roddenberry out. And it's not like Roddenberry was just sat on the sidelines where he couldn't do anything, but he wasn't the head producer in charge anymore. It fell to Mike and or to Rick Berman and Mike Piller. Rick Berman. It fell to those two guys. And those two guys I have my own issues with. Because they kind of put a bad taste in the mouth of, you know, they kind of really did get very dark with Trek in times. But in some ways, in a lot of ways, it was warranted. You know, sometimes we could have done without it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more or less the background, how they made some of the writers feel, how they made some of the actors and actresses feel, is where my grief comes from. Matter of fact, DC Fontana, who I idolize as one of the Star Trek writers, just because her story is so interesting. Why she doesn't have her own documentary is beyond me. She should. And in all honesty, I am inclined to write it myself at this point in time. But she was there from the original series, pretty much almost day one, all the way until Next Gen. About halfway through Next Gen, when she finally had enough and told Rick and Mike, I'm done. I can't work with you two. Because while she was with them when they kind of started to kind of force Roddenberry out of the pilot seat, more or less, because of how strict he was being, she still wanted to keep the majority of his vision alive, and they would have times and troubles where they would run into issues, where she would run into issues with the way they wanted to take stories and do things like that. And so when she finally hung it up, it's like, okay, you guys have really fucked up here. And I've seen some of the documentaries, and then I've formed my own opinion on this myself through the years, through the documentaries that I've watched, because of her words. You know, I've seen their side of things. Don't get me wrong. Again, there are things I am so happy that they gave us, that those two guys gave us. But I'm disappointed overall in who they are and what they stood for, versus when it came to, like I said, working with some of the writers and the producers, directors, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Roddenberry was a great man. There are times we do talk a little bit about him in a negative light, but that's because you can't idolize everybody all the time. You gotta also accept their faults.
He was very difficult to work with.
Yes. Like Leonard Nimoy. I idolize Leonard Nimoy. Love Leonard Nimoy. Leonard had a very bad alcohol addiction, and it showed a lot. He had a very bad time with his kids, Julie and Adam, and it showed a lot because of that alcohol addiction. And if you watch For the Love of Spock, the documentary, Adam talks about that, and he brings that to light. As much as I love Leonard Nimoy, I will tell, if I could talk to him, I'd let him know, dude, your alcoholism was fucking bullshit, dude. But at the same time, I'm no better myself. I'm 7 years sober. I'm no different myself. I've had my own troubles. I'm not saying in any way that any of these people are perfect. DC Fontana has had her own troubles that, I'd be like, hey, that probably wasn't the best thing,
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody has their own troubles. Everybody has their own problems.
Yeah. So you take the good with the bad. You always got to do that with everybody. But yeah, we in no way mean any disrespect to Gene Roddenberry. Majority of the time, I don't mean disrespect to Mike Piller or Rick Berman. There, I said it.
Kind of, but yes, no, it'll work.
But
I know you. It'll work. Good enough.
We just mean, again, as I've said many times in this series, as you watch Trek, as you watch these documentaries, form your own conclusions, form your own opinions. That's what this is about. John's got very different opinions than I do on a lot of this. on a lot of not just movies, not just shows, not just episodes. There's a lot that we don't see eye to eye on. Does it cause any grief between us? Fuck no. Why? Because it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
You know, at the end of the day, they were just people doing making a show. You know, and they had to work around what they had to work around to get that show done. And to make these shows and make these movies and all this other stuff. There were a lot of projects, especially with the movies, that Gene Roddenberry did not agree with. We've talked about those as we talked about the original 6 movies. You know, Wrath of Khan. Gene Roddenberry hated the fact that Leonard Nimoy died, or that Spock died.
He hated.
Yeah,
the
hated
fact that Spock died. He hated the space battles. He hated pretty much that whole thing.
Yeah. And then the following movies afterwards, he hated almost all of them. You know, there was, you know, I think the only movie he actually genuinely liked was the motion picture. And even then, there were things about that he didn't fucking care for. And if you ask the actors, I mean, you know, if you ask the actors of those original movies, they hated the first one. They loved the rest of them. You know,
Hell,
Leonard Nimoy's favorite.
I didn't even develop a love for the first one until after the 4K remaster came out. What, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah. You know, and the way Leonard Nimoy talks about it, again, for the love of Spock, he talks about like, oh, well, it's this new big budget that we got, so let's make all these outward scenes and where we're going to go through this, we're going to go through that, and this and that and everything else. And it wasn't really a character-driven story like it should have been. And that's why when he got his hands on Star Trek 4, that's his favorite movie, because he got to tell a story he wanted to tell.
And Star Trek
again,
4
we're not
is
demonizing
arguably one of the best movies.
Yeah. You know, and again, we're not demonizing anybody.
No.
Not trying to. Again, form your own opinions. Go through the stuff yourself. You know, if there's one person in Star Trek that you can't demonize, Lucille Ball. Okay, the fairy godmother of Star Trek. Again, a name that I've heard on Star Trek TikTok that I have adopted myself. I fucking love that name for her. It fits perfectly. That is the one person you can't badmouth when it comes to Trek.
Because without her, we wouldn't have Trek. Period.
Yeah. We would have gotten that first pilot that failed and wasn't shown for 30 fucking years, and no one would have ever seen it ever.
No, for at least a year.
There wouldn't ever.
You're forgetting the Menagerie. We did get to see it before that.
Right.
Which, going back to our earlier point, is basically an episode about them watching an episode of Star Trek. If you think about it.
Which, by the way, if you're gonna watch Strange New Worlds, if you want to watch kind of like I've had my wife watching Star Trek, if you want to watch it kind of chronological order, more or less, before you start Strange New Worlds, what you need to do is, so you watch all of Enterprise, you watch all of Enterprise, then you go through Discovery, to the first 2 seasons of Discovery, then watch the first episode. Watch the first pilot called The Cage of the original series about with Pike on the bridge. Because it kind of sets up, when you're watching The Cage, they're coming back from the incident on Rigel 7. And then when you watch Strange New Worlds, you're going to get an episode where they go back to Rigel 7. And you're going to be like, oh. So watch that episode first, and then watch Strange New Worlds, then the original series. You kind of complete the story more, but I didn't do that with Hannah. I just had her watch Strange New Worlds, and then we got into the original series, and I showed her The Cage first, because I wanted to show her, hey, you want to see Spock with emotions? You want to see Spock that's not Spock at all? You want to see Spock that's not even technically a Vulcan?
Then you watch the second pilot, where no man has gone before, and then you watch episodes 1 and 2, and then 4 on. because they have it
Yeah.
structured really, really fucking weird on Paramount for whatever stupid reason, and I hate it.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's weird. It's fucking weird. But yeah, you know, you can have some fun with it. You know, if you want to do it that way, it's up to you guys. Again, up to you guys entirely.
Yep.
You know, we've been doing the podcast in order of when they came out. That's why we started with the original series, and we're only just now getting to Voyager, and we're still technically in the 90s. You know, we haven't even broken to the 2000s yet, and we won't do that till we get to the end of Voyager and into Enterprise. But some other, you know, good questions that have come out of this, that have come off of Star Trek TikTok. Why the uniform changes? Very simple. One, you're getting to make a new show. You kind of don't want to keep the same uniforms because it gets kind of boring after a while. Two, why does the military change uniforms so often? You know, that's just, it's just that, you know, uniforms change over time. You know, the police and fire uniforms of today were not the police and fire uniforms of the 80s, of the 60s, of the early 1900s, of the late 1800s, going back and forth, you know, all the way. You know, the military uniforms of today weren't the military uniforms of the 2010s or the 2000s, you know, the 90s, the 80s. They changed throughout the years. So, you know, it's more or less just like keeping it kind of contemporary, more or less. And like I said, you keep seeing the same uniform over and over and over again. It's going to get real fucking boring. And it gives, you know, new costuming departments a chance to shine, and it gives everybody the chance to pick their favorite uniform. Mine being the Monster Maroon. I fucking love the Monster Maroon. It is my favorite uniform, and I'll wear it till the day I die. Hell, if I get my way, I'll be buried in the Monster Maroon uniform. All right. But
I think the
that's
simple
pretty-
answer though is things evolve. That's the simple thing is things evolve. Like nothing
Yeah.
nothing will ever truly stay the same. Like just like trends, nothing like bringing up stuff like there's stuff from the 70s that have really just stayed in the 70s, but they've evolved over time to be just a little bit different.
Right. You know, you have like the one constant in Star Trek is there's going to be a ship named Enterprise, and it's going to be the most badass ship in the galaxy. You're going to have Starfleet. You're going to have villains that Starfleet has to face. But it's like, it's never going to look the same. It's not, you know, the ships evolve over time for the same reason uniforms do. The you know, the
Starfleet liked one
Romulans, the Klingons, they all
uniform
evolve
so
over
much,
time.
they used it for like 8 years.
Right. You know, and even on the Excelsior class, shit, you know, talking about a ship that they've used for years and years and years and years, you know, think about it this way.
They used the Excelsior class for well over 100 years.
The Excelsior class came out in the 23rd century, right? 23rd
Yes.
or early 24th.
Here.
I want to say the Excelsior class came out in the late 23rd century.
Yes, it did.
And canonically with Star Trek, if you go off the video game, Star Trek Online, we're in the 25th century now, and the Excelsior class is still around.
The
Now, those two
Excelsior class
starships
was
look-
initially constructed during the early 2280s.
Yeah, it's the late 23rd century.
And then the Excelsior class would remain in service into the late 2380s. So they used this ship for well over 100 years.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, if you use the video game Star Trek Online for your canon, it's still in service as of the 25th century, because you can see the Excelsior classes as NPC ships running around space dock on Earth. You'll even, on some of your missions, you'll see captains come in with the Excelsior classes on some of your missions. So it's been the workhorse of the Federation for hundreds of years. Now, if you take a 2280 Excelsior class and you put it up against a 2430 Excelsior class and you break them, the shell, minor differences, but you take them apart and you show the inside, you're looking at two completely different ships, right? Way different, way off, totally wrong. They don't even look the same. Take the original Constitution class and do the refit, and then separate those two ships. From the outside, they look roughly the same. You take away that shell, look at the insides, those are two completely different ships. So, just kind of, ships evolve over time, the uniforms evolve over time. Evolution, baby. That's the answer. Evolution. All right. Why do the Klingons change? Evolution. Why do the Romulans change? Evolution. That's just the facts of it. I can't really think of any other questions that would be a real good explanation point for Trek fans, for guys kind of new to this, getting into this. I don't know if you guys have any that we could answer here. Lumen, you'd probably be the best one to have some questions that we could probably answer, so I'll give it up to you.
The only one I really wanted to know was, the crystal question, because I've always wondered that since I was a little guy, a little lad, watching my grandma's TV as Star Trek played. So that's about it. Oh, I'm gonna have to say, also Spock dying was my first canon event. I think. I fear. I don't trust characters dying anymore. Insert supernatural. Just the entire show.
Right.
I mean, there isn't really many questions, I guess, that I have coming from somewhat of a younger fan.
Right. I mean, I guess that's fair because, yes, while you're technically a younger fan, newer to Trek, you've been raised in it, kind of like John here, and kind of like me. It's not new to you. It's not a new concept to you. The newest thing about Trek is the newer shows that are coming out, and so it's more or less okay, we have questions about these new shows, but it's exactly. More or less it's not questions that are well, why is this way? It's more or less
the answers are so obvious to us three because we were raised on it. We grew up with it. Star Wars, I would have a plethora of questions for, but this isn't a Star Wars. This isn't a Star Wars podcast.
Right.
I know about Star Wars, but I don't know nearly as much about Star Wars as I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm kind of in the middle with it.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing. As we've brought up on this podcast before, the reason this podcast works, Chris knows the real life, the off-screen kind of things. I know the on-screen, the lore, the in-universe lore kind of thing.
Right. And you guys have heard, plenty of times before, okay, John, I know why this is this way, but what's the canon version? What is the in-universe version of this? Or John will, vice versa. Okay, hey, here's the canon version of this. We know this. What did the writers do? Why did the writers do this?
That? Why would the writers decide to be fine?
Yeah.
And I think I'm kind of good on well, why are the characters like this? Because I'm a huge looking into the writing kind of thing. I'm very you asked me a question about any of my favorite characters. I'm gonna use an example, River Ward from Cyberpunk 2077. I could go on for hours about him, about how other there's specific details in his story that completely contradict a lot of lore that he has in a good way. Or Castiel. I'm throwing out characters that people would know. Castiel or
Yeah.
Sam or Dean. I know I look into the writing a lot, so I could easily, answer questions about characters because I know way too much.
I guess one of the other questions that we could kind of answer is, why do some starships have a saucer separation and others don't? That's a good
Because
one.
it's cool.
Well, most of them actually do.
Yeah, most do now.
Well, even back in the original series, the original
Really?
Enterprise was designed to have saucer separation. However, it was only in emergencies. So what would happen is there would be explosive
They do
bolts.
it really well in the 2009.
Right.
Sorry to
There
cut you
was
off. I'm just gonna toss out an example for people to understand what that means. They do a really good example in the 2009 movie.
really good example in the Next Generation movie, but that wasn't emergency. How it worked in how the original Enterprise was, there was explosive bolts right under the saucer in the neck section. Section, if I can learn how to talk. Right at the top of that little thing, there's explosive bolts that would separate the saucer from the star drive section. It was designed to only ever be used in emergency situations, and it was damn near impossible to reattach the saucer section to the star drive section. It was doable, but it was damn near impossible to do it.
Scotty would have figured it out.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The only time we actually get to see it is in the non-canon fan production, Star Trek Continues. They do a saucer separation of the original Enterprise, and it's badass as hell. They don't do it the way I just explained it, but that's beside the point. It was still very cool to see. It was a very next-gen saucer separation, but with the original Enterprise. It was super cool, super awesome to see. And even the refit had it. I think if you look in Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, there is a section about how the saucer can separate.
Okay.
So
see, I didn't know about the original. I didn't know about the original because I knew the B could. I knew the B could, the C and the D, and all of them afterwards could.
Well,
I did not know about
even
the
with the B and the C. It's the same story as the original. It was only ever designed to be used in an extreme emergency, and explosive bolts would blow, separating the saucer section from the star drive section. The D is the only one that was actually designed to do it normally.
Right. Because I know, because I was reading into the Enterprise B on Memory Beta. I think it was Beta that talks about it a little bit in the last moments of John Harriman and the Enterprise B crew, because as we know, that ship was lost. And there are, records indicating that saucer separation might have happened. Even on Memory Beta, it's never confirmed if it did or not. Again, I would love to see a USS Enterprise B show or USS Enterprise B movie. Give me, I talked about it last podcast or the podcast before. I don't remember what I talked about it.
2280s to fucking 2360s. Anywhere in that era.
Right. Give me the Enterprise C for a little bit. I would love to see it. I want to see those two ships because those are gorgeous ships. They got minimal screen time. And as an Enterprise fan, give me the Enterprise. Okay, I want the Enterprise. Bad bitch of the galaxy. The original bad bitch of the galaxy. I know I gave that name to Janeway, and she is the bad bitch of the galaxy. But I just realized I did not turn my fucking lights on this time. There we go. Now it lit up a little better.
It was you. Oh, sorry.
But yeah, there's even concept art from the motion picture that shows a saucer separation of the original refit Enterprise.
Okay. Okay. See, I didn't know that because, like I said, when they decide to destroy the Enterprise in Search for Spock, they didn't do that. They just set in the command codes, and that was it.
Yeah.
Which again,
Well-
thank you for that Spaceballs edit this morning. That was fucking hilarious.
That was great. We're the Klingons. Anyway. But yeah, and it was only ever concept that they ever talked about. That's why I think when they did it in Star Trek 3, they just like forgot about it, or like, no, we're destroying the ship. You're not separating shit.
Right.
Is how I think that conversation in the writers' room probably would have gone.
Yeah. So then let me ask, in the concepts for separating the saucer on the original Enterprise, and the refit, was there a battle bridge such as the Enterprise D?
I think it would have
Or
been.
was it, no, you're either gonna fly the saucer home and explode the rest of it?
Well, here's the thing, and I think, and it explains this in Star Trek Continues as well. I think in those ships, the auxiliary control room is what would have been the quote-unquote battle bridge.
Gotcha.
Like if you remember, like
Okay.
The episode Doomsday Machine, they're not on the
Right.
bridge; they're controlling the ship through the auxiliary control room. I think that would have been the
Right.
quote-unquote battle bridge were the ship to separate in a combat scenario, but it was only ever designed to be used in near disaster situations.
Right.
So I guess to kind of show you a picture of what that looked like. Share screen. Go. That's what that would have looked like. That is the original concept art for
Okay.
separating the Enterprise.
But to answer, so a canon in universe answer as to why the saucers separate and stuff like that. So the saucer section, especially for, I'm going to use the Enterprise D because that's the one we've seen do it, and that's the one we've seen the protocol for it. You have limited bridge officers go take over the actual bridge of the Enterprise D. You get all the families and non-essential people on the saucer section. You separate. Your main crew stays in the bottom section of the Enterprise. Your main bridge crew goes to the battle bridge, while the saucer section is supposed to fly off, get the fuck out of danger, right? And if needed, fly home. They only have impulse engines, so it's going to take them fucking forever to get there,
or at least to the
but it's to
nearest
get them out of
starbase.
danger. Right, it's to get them out of danger, get them to be contacted by another, make contact with whoever they can to either get them home, get them to a starbase, or get them to a place where if the rest of the Enterprise can officially fight off whatever they're having to fight off, can come back and reconnect with them, and they can go back about their way. It's more or less for safety purposes of those that are not necessarily supposed to be on a starship, dying on a starship off of one without using all your shuttlecraft should you need them in this combat situation.
Or in another tactical situation, you would have the combined power to for a two-pronged attack. If you separated the saucer section, you've got two ships, and as we all know, two ships is better than one.
Right.
Such as when the Borg attacked Earth in the 2360s, or Best of Both Worlds if you're looking for your real life answer.
Right.
Like when Commander Shelby.
John just wanted to be John, a little show off in the middle of a mission on Star Trek Online.
I have used it tactically, not just. I'll admit I have used it to show off a little bit, but no, I use it tactically.
I know you do. You're still showing off. I don't give a fuck.
I am.
You do it
pretty big.
because
I am a pretty big show off when it comes to Star Trek Online. I've got cloaking devices. I've got saucer separation. I've got all kinds of stupid bullshit.
But that's okay. If I ever get you to download DC Universe Online onto your PlayStation, I'll be the bigger show off when it comes to that game. So
My friend's been playing that recently. That's cool. Sorry, popping in. I want to do Star Trek Online. I just don't have anything to run it.
I was about to say, hey, let us know. We play it like all the damn time. We'll help
If
you
I
out.
If I ever get it, you guys will be the first to. I will like have the thought, and then Chris will somehow know. He'll get like a telepathic feeling, like Lumen
See,
got it.
And
Lumen
here's
got the
what'll
game.
happen is
Lumen
like
got
you'll
it."
be sitting back and we'll be taking care of everything because we've got all the overpowered bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be like, let us handle this, and we'll just boom,
Oh, 'cause,
bang, we're
yeah,
done. Let's get out of here.
Carter. We've been doing that with Carter because we had Carter before we got Discord figured out. We had Carter get the game, and so Carter is free to play using the free to play ships, and me and John have both bought into this game several fucking times over. So we got shit that can fuck something up,
Big time.
and we've made like, goddamn, this is easier than the first time we did this. And
Like,
this is
man,
easier
this
than
is a lot easier like the second or third time around. And we're like, oh, right. Yeah.
And then the one time we're all in a group. Okay, we forget that Carter. There was a mission where you had to do it by yourself.
Mhm.
And Carter's in our group, and me and John are just having, we're
We're
done with the
blasting
mission.
through this
and
at
Carter's
like
over there
fucking
I'm
warp
still
speed.
getting my ass kicked. And we're like,
Oh,
shit.
shit.
The problem is that me and John are using characters that are at the end
That are
of
max
the
level.
story. So yeah, we're beefed up. We're level 65. We're admirals.
And he's getting his ass
Carter's
whooped.
a lieutenant, and if you join a group, if you don't join in match level, if you just join it, you're kind of fucked. If you go up against somebody,
If you're in a mission where you have to be by yourself.
yeah, because all the bad guys will be at the level of us.
Mhm.
They'll be level 65 bad guys, and Carter's
But
level 20.
we'd probably take it a little bit easier on you, and we'd probably just start new characters to start playing with you. That way, everybody's the same level.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because we didn't think about that with
Universe-
Carter,
I get
and
special treatment.
I kind of feel bad for saying it, but
With DC Universe Online, however, though, the cool thing about that is if I join, like, okay, say John creates a character right now, even though my character's at the max, leveled the fuck out, I can still go into his missions, and his missions, his bad guys will still be level whatever he's at. For me, because I'm at the end of it, they're one hits for me. So normally what I do if I'm playing DC Universe Online with someone, especially if they're brand new, I get out that little badass fucking Flash character and I just fucking one hit everybody and they're like, all right, did you get your thing done? Did you get the mission done? All right, cool. Let's go on to the next one. And we're done with missions in like 2 minutes.
That's
and that's
nice,
how it
though.
is
That's
for
how
Star
it
Trek
feels
Online
like
for us
something.
anymore. Is we're done in like 2 minutes, and
Yeah.
where on our first few run throughs it would have taken us at least 30.
Yeah. And so it's but we've started some newer characters. We're at level 20, and what's funny is we're
We're like at like
we've
level
done
30
Star
because
Trek
we're
Online.
captains now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did 10 fucking levels. We're on 35, 36. 36. We're almost
I
at 40
haven't-
now. But either way,
Yeah, I think I'm on 35 and you're on 36. I think that's how that's worked. I don't fucking remember.
yeah, because I'm a level above you for some reason. I don't know. But either way, so every time we've done Star Trek Online, we've made different characters, different character names. They don't look anything like us, so they look kind of like us, but not really.
Keeps getting easier and easier as we keep doing
Yeah.
this.
These characters that we've made this time, we were lazy with it. We used our actual names for this one.
Yeah, we did.
They look somewhat like us.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, fuck it. We're having fun with it now.
Yeah.
Creating our own lore.
That seems like so much
Well, I
fun.
think playing Star Trek Online is what gave us the idea to do this podcast. Like, it's what gave us
Yeah.
like the, hey, let's do this while we play this video game that we freaking love. And this is what has.
Yeah.
I think we only stopped playing Star Trek Online like what 2-3 episodes ago.
I think it's been 4 episodes we've done face to face, but it has not been long. It has not been long at all.
Yeah, like 3
Um,
episodes, like we've done face to
Yeah.
face. Because we started
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
And it's, you know, and we probably will go back to Star Trek Online at one point or another. I mean, I'm sure we will.
Like,
You know,
might just be like
I
an
would love
every
to.
now and again kind of thing.
Yeah. But, you know, doing it more face to face makes us look more official, makes us seem more official and everything. And again, we're trying to get official, guys. We're trying to get out there and build this to something that can rival some of these other Star Trek podcasts. Because again, you know, you guys know, we've said it before. We know we're at the bottom of the totem pole, you know, but you know, and there's thousands out there, so we're not gonna get big quick, but we're gonna try our fucking best. And hey, we've had more people, uh, uh, fuck, guest on this podcast as a newer podcast than any other podcast has ever had. So, might not be actual actors or people that worked on the show, but people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Chris from Screen Rant.
Yeah,
You fucking dick.
Chris from Scream Rant, jackass. I just know
What
we're
if
gonna
one
get
of the
we're gonna
more
get like
behind
a
that-
cease and desist letter from Screen Rant. I swear to God, we're gonna get a defamation
gonna-
suit from this guy. I swear to Jesus.
I welcome it.
Woo!
I can't wait to destroy him.
I can't afford it, and neither can you.
But I'll show up in uniform just to piss him off.
That's a 10 out of 10 right there.
Mr. Yarbrough, can you tell me exactly why you're in a Starfleet uniform?
Well, to
yes,
start
sir,
the story off,
That fuck right there, the defendant from Screen Rant,
plaintiff.
doesn't know dick about Star Trek. And I called him out on it on a podcast one time. And then one time became several times. To I think carry the couple hundred times. And so he finally sent me a cease and desist. And I put on my nicest outfit that I have, my most expensive outfit that I have, and I showed up here to court today. And that's a Starfleet uniform. Yes, Your Honor. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, whatever. Fuck it. Whatever.
If I ever get a jury duty thing, and I hope it's that, I will be forever on the Star Trek person's side.
But you can't
That's
let
the only
him
time I
know
would
that.
ever go to jury duty.
Like, you can't let him know that, because then they won't let you be on the jury.
Exactly.
You gotta hide
Because I don't know I like Star Trek. Yeah, I'll just be wearing like a little pin.
it. Star Trek? What's that?
I don't know.
Is that that weird
sports
show my
guy? I
grandpa
thought that
watches
guy's
every
name-
now and again?
Yeah, right.
I can see the lawsuit now, though. I can see the court now. You know, just like he's gonna pull up that exact episode. I think it was what, episode 2 or episode 3 that we found his thing.
I don't remember.
He's gonna. No, fuck! It was Next Generation episode. It was the first season Next Generation episode. That's what
Yeah, it was. Oh fuck.
Let's see. That would be TOS, Wilson, Wrath. Episode 8.
Yeah,
would
it
be
had to have
episode
been.
8.
Yeah, it was the one we I had to divide in two because something fucked up on us.
Yeah. But he would grab that episode, right? And he's going to be like submitting this to the court. Everybody's going to watch that episode and watch me destroy this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Talking about his knowledge of Star Trek on a Star Trek podcast. And the judge is going to be like, well, Chris, it's your fault. You're a dumbass. You clearly, obviously do not know what you're talking about. I was writing a piece, and a horrible one at that, sir. Order in the court. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is actually precisely what would fucking happen. Like, that is 100%. Like, that's exactly how that would go.
Yeah, they're going to want to hear the
and I would be
defamation.
here.
They're going to want to hear the defamation, and then they're going to pull up, what was it, episode 2 of TNG. So episode 9, where we got Rachel, Rachel knew what the hell she was talking about. We still don't fully agree with Rachel because she has said some off the
But
wall
she
shit.
at least
but
knew
you know,
what
she
the
knows
fuck she was talking about. Like, god damn.
Yeah.
She was so
So
much
they're gonna pull
better.
up that episode where I destroyed him some more just for the simple fact that this bitch knew what she was
It's
talking
become
about. But
well.
he
Here's
did
the
not.
thing. It's become a running bit in damn near every episode we've done. It's become a running fucking bit.
Every time I pull an article up and it's a Screen Rant article, I'm always like, "Don't be a Chris."
Every time, without fail.
And I think it's like at this point, I think it's every other episode I get a Screen Rant fucking article too. So
You do. You make sure to pull up at least one Screen Rant article every time.
And in all honesty, again, I don't go looking for these on Screen Rant, right?
You're
If I
full
went
of
looking
shit.
for these on
You're-
Screen
I'm
Rant,
starting to
I'd
think
pull
you're
a
full of
Christian every
shit
time.
because you pull one up every
No,
fucking time.
No, I pull up Google, and Google will automatically go, "Here's a Star Trek article," and I'll click it, and then it'll say Screen Rant, and it'll be like, here we go. I'm gonna have some fun with this.
Like, I'm starting to think like you're just on ScreenRant.com every fucking day. Like, ooh, what can I find today?
Fuck it, I might find some other Chris ones.
Well, we might as well
Never
continue
learned
the
what
bit.
you're talking about. Let's see. This new article from Screen Rant is from Chris. Let's see if he found out what he was talking about. So,
God damn it. Oh boy, yeah, no, we don't like Chris one bit, and it shows.
and here we are back in the Admiral's office.
That's
not
why
that hard.
that is why we're called Task Force HR. Oh,
It started as little flirting here and there with his officer, his science officer Haley.
go back and watch
But
any of
every
our
episode.
old episodes where we're playing Star Trek Online. You'll
Yeah.
see exactly what the hell he's talking about. It's like,
What is happening with that?
and
And
now
then-
it's
and then it got,
escalated to full-on defamation, as well as like fucking just about everything in the damn book is what we're going to fucking HR for.
Let's see.
That's really
There's
funny.
harassment. There's sexual harassment suits. There's defamation suits. Base racism.
Yeah.
Discrimination's
Oh
a big
yeah,
one.
discrimination. Can't forget the discrimination.
Poorly timed jokes.
Very,
But, I mean, it's been 20 years.
very,
It's been 20 years.
very
Over your
poorly
film.
timed jokes.
It's been over 20 years. That field in Pennsylvania deserves some love.
You know what, you stupid motherfucker. Oh man. Yeah. In case you couldn't tell what the hell he's talking about, Lumen, we make like 9/11 jokes on the daily because we're idiots.
Matter of fact, John started the
I did.
9/11 jokes.
I have to take credit. I started that one.
We'd already been talking about that episode of Family Guy where
It's the spelling
Peter
bee.
has to go back and do the spelling bee, and it's like Omar North Tower. So
And-
John goes, "We're not even on the podcast at this point in time.
Yeah, no, we're not.
This is before the podcast." John goes to Space Dock and goes, "I'm gonna North Tower this motherfucker."
No, I said I'm gonna South Tower this bitch, and I just ran my ship into fucking space dock
Oh.
because I'm an asshole.
And so now every time we go to Space Dock,
Every
one of
time.
us-
Every freaking
one
time.
of us always has to say South Tower.
And the other one goes North Tower because we're stupid like that.
Oh
And then
my God.
Carter's with
We
the
are horrible
five-sided
people.
building.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're horrible
We need a
people when it
fourth one
comes to
to
that
hit
kind
the
of
field of Pennsylvania.
bullshit.
Well, you got to get a PlayStation and get Star Trek Online so you can be the field in Pennsylvania.
No, I am not. I am not going to. No. I'm gonna be the voice of reason going. Nuh-uh.
Oh shit.
Damn it, Data, that's a direct order.
No, I am not. You
Direct
can't order me to
And
do
all of a sudden, we
shit.
find ourselves going to HR yet again. This is why we're called Task Force HR, is because we do shit that lands us in HR every second of our lives.
Matter of fact, we have an opening that we've been neglecting to do the past few episodes. It is Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Task Force HR. Its mission: to find new and creative ways to go to the Admiral's office. To go to HR like no one has gone before.
Dun, 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 dun.
Why is it anytime there's trouble, it's always you three? Sorry, Admiral.
Beats me, Admiral. I've been asking myself the same question for 6 years.
He's a bad influence on me.
Yeah, you guys are terrible influences. Like terrible.
You're a bad
Absolutely
influence
horrendous.
on me. We're bad influences on each other, bitch. You can't put this all on me. This is partly your fault too.
And then this is a point where Carter's like, yeah, and I'm just stuck here. To which we both will turn, look at him, and go, oh,
You're guilty by association, bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. 10 out of 10.
We just dumped
This is a great
so
movie,
much
by the
lore
way.
in
Yeah,
this
I gotta feel
podcast. Like-
And then, oh man, if you go back and watch the episodes in which we're playing and we run into Sela,
Oh God.
the amount of, you want to talk about true defamation and true
Yeah,
discrimination?
weird.
The Sela hate.
Is very strong. It is very
Oh
strong.
my god.
We hate Sela. We hate her.
Hey, at least you can agree on something.
She's such a rotten bitch though.
Yeah.
And she's so smug about being a rotten bitch. That's the thing.
Like, if they gave her the line, I'm a rotten bitch, and
Like,
I know it, what
nobody
are you gonna do about it?
would
I
be
wouldn't
surprised.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
Nobody
No,
would
just-
be
yeah.
surprised.
It just better give me the fucking opportunity for my character to just go,
Exactly.
or yeah, just
Yeah, just yeah.
one of these days, Sela, one of these days, bang, boom, straight to the moon.
He wasn't talking about space travel. He was just using it as a metaphor for beating his wife. That's the what's that from? Isn't that from Futurama?
Futurama.
They're going through the space museum. Yeah. It's like, and Fry's just like, he wasn't talking about space travel. That was just a metaphor for beating his wife.
It's one of my favorite episodes from Futurama too, man. I fucking
So
love that
funny.
episode.
And that's why we're the people we are, is because we grew up on stupid shit like that.
Right?
That's why
Well,
we're
you
heading
wanna
to
talk
the
about
Admiral's
stupid shit?
office every 20 minutes.
You want to talk about stupid shit in all honesty?
Oh God, here we go.
I've maxed out how many characters I can have. Oh shit. I've maxed out every character that I can have on Star Trek Online. You
I
get
have-
10 slots, I've got all 10.
I bought more, so I've got like lots left.
See, yeah, I haven't bought any slots yet, but I'm going to.
I have 9
Because
out
one
of
the slots that I
12.
have-
So I bought 2 more slots.
one of the slots that I have,
Oh God,
I have Peter Griffin and the entire Family Guy cast on a
He does.
starship.
he does. I've seen it. It's a
Oh my
it's a
god.
thing.
I need to,
It is. It's
I
a
need
thing.
to rank Peter Griffin up so I can get more officers so I can put the rest of the cast on there. because right now my ship is comprised of Peter Griffin as the captain. I have Cleveland, Quagmire, Joe, and Lois. I need to get Stewie, Brian, Meg, Chris, and those are going to be my basic bridge officers. I think that'll be 9. We'll see. Peter, Lois, Quagmire, Joe, Cleveland, Stewie, Brian, Chris, Meg. Yeah, I'm going to have all 9 of them. So that's going to be my bridge crew.
Yeah.
I wish you could buy extra slots for bridge officers.
You can.
Because I would. We can? Okay, because now, once I get all 9...
look at the Zen store under items and services. You'll find it.
Okay.
But it's only for that one character.
Well, I'll buy one and put the giant chicken on my Family Guy Enterprise.
Oh, Jesus.
Which the ship's been called the USS Peter Schmidt because, of course, Lois's dad is going to find a way to make sure that Peter always has to hear his name.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the USS Drunken Clam, USS Spooner Street, and I think those are my 3 ships that I have.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a thing. It's a thing. That's about all I got for that. It's a thing.
Every time I play that character too, I've always got my my mic on in the public session. And sure, I can run around doing shit like this and talking to Peter Griffin like,
oh, no.
stupid boy.
Yeah, he gets the voice and everything. It's interesting.
That would be so chaotic if you're just flying around and all of a sudden you just hear Peter Griffin flying by.
I've had so many.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done that. I've had so many people. I've had so many people join my group when I'm playing as Peter Griffin just so they can fucking hear Peter Griffin.
Yeah. True story.
Would want to experience.
That's the real difference is I don't have any joke characters.
Which I if you let me talk you into one, you should do a Simpsons.
Nobody needs that.
Everyone needs it. The whole world needs it.
Well, then Chris needs to buy some more fucking character slots because I hate doing it.
I had one. I since deleted him because I wanted to use the space for something else. But I had one. Have you seen the movie Paul? About the little green alien with Simon Pegg?
Yeah, me and my grandma just watched that one.
I had Paul. I had Simon Pegg's character on there. I had Nick Frost's character on there. I had the blind girl, and I had
your goddamn hands off my motherfucking chest.
Jason Bateman's character. I can't remember his name. I know he goes by Z in the movie, but I had his full name on there. But yeah, I was playing as him one time, and I had somebody come up and go, "Holy shit, is that Paul?" I go, I had the character did a point thing. It was like, "It's probing time."
Yes. Oh man, I was so glad I found that movie. Me and Grandma were just searching for movies to watch, and I was like, "Oh my god, Paul! I've always wanted to see that." And then we watched it, and my grandma was laughing so hard. It was great.
I've heard stories. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They haven't confirmed anything, but I've heard that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are trying to get in contact with Seth Rogen to see if they can all do a Paul 2. Please give me Paul 2. Please, for the love of God, give me Sigourney Weaver back. Well, no, it's because Sigourney Weaver dies in that movie. Never mind. But still, give me Paul 2.
Dude, I was
make
so
a reference
happy
to Simon Pegg being Scotty.
because I was. Yes.
Oh, did y'all hear?
Sigourney Weaver,
back on Star Trek.
Anyway,
back on Star Trek. Simon Pegg has stated that he wants to get Star Trek 4 underway. For the Kelvin
most
timeline.
of the cast have wanted to get Star Trek 4 underway. Even Chris Pine, I think, has said it.
Oh yeah, but Simon Pegg has even talked to Paramount and said, "I will be the director, I have a script written out. Please let us do this. I don't know why Paramount's being a holdout at this point in time.
Probably because Skydance, but
probably, but like in all honesty, I mean, just give it to us, man. Like originally it was Anton Yelchin died and the whole cast wanted to take a break to kind of remember Anton Yelchin. They kind of put that in at the end of the movie.
Yep.
But and so the whole cast wanted that time to kind of grieve, you know, mourn that loss, and then recuperate and come back to it. But then I don't know what happened. They hadn't been able to come back to it, and every time they tried, they just keep getting shut down. It's like everybody wants this. Star Trek Beyond had the highest ratings and the highest box office of those three movies.
I don't know how many brush fires I'm going to start with this one, but I think Beyond was the best out of the trilogy.
I am with you. I think for me, it's Beyond.
I liked all of them.
It's Beyond, Star Trek, and then Into Darkness.
Yeah.
For me.
Yep.
I don't hate a single one of them. I don't dislike
Right.
a single one of them. I love all three of them, but Beyond is my favorite one. 100%.
And
I mean,
like,
look at that knockout,
full
drag out
disclosure,
fucking cast they
I
have in
used
that
to
movie.
hate Into Darkness. I used to hate that movie with a passion.
Really?
Just because
I think before Beyond, you go first. You go first. Sorry.
I was about to say, just because like I was like, well, none of this. This is a. I used to hate it because it did my favorite movie very, very horribly. It was basically a really shitty Star Trek 2, is how I used to view that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's only taken me.
I understand that.
Yeah, I've only come over that in like the last maybe 4 or 5 years.
And see, I understand that because a lot of people were like, man, this is trying to be Wrath of Khan so bad, and it's just not. And you know, I had to take a step back myself and go, well, technically, this wouldn't be Wrath of Khan. This is Space Seed.
Yeah.
This is Space Seed with Wrath of Khan written into it. You know, the parallels between the two, I love them personally. You know, Kirk taking Spock's place, you know, in the reactor core. And when Kirk comes back and Spock, you know, why did you do that? Because it's what you would have done. That line hits so well, and it hits so hard for so many different reasons, because you look back and
it is
Leonard
what he would
Nimoy,
have done. Because
Leonard Nimoy
did.
you know, his Spock, his Spock is you know, Leonard Nimoy's Spock is the one that did do that, did die in Kirk's place. You know, it's so, it's, God, I can't talk enough about that fucking movie. When we get to those movies, when we get to Into Darkness, I have so much to tell, so much that I want to say about it, because I love, like I said, I love all three of those movies. There's not a thing I will complain about any of them. You know, one of my favorite lines from any of them is, you said in 4, I'll do it in 3. Fucking love that shit, because that's me to a T. Oh, I can't fucking watch, you know. and then that movie using, as young James T. Kirk, taking his stepdad's ride and doing, you know, using that Beastie Boys song. Ever since that movie came out, that Beastie Boys song has been on my playlist. And then when they came back and used it in Star Trek Beyond, I was like, this is fucking it. And it is fucking line. Great choice of music. Like, yes.
Good choice.
I think of my ranking of them would have to be, I actually really liked Into Darkness when I first watched it, but of course I had watched it, you know, well before Beyond came out. And so I think that's why it was a lot more top tier for me. But also I really like Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of Khan, coming from someone who did grow up on the older movies. My grandma absolutely loved his portrayal of Khan. and she loves Zachary Quino as Khan and what not as Khan, but as Spock. So I think Beyond Darkness would have to be my top two spot for those three, but Beyond is definitely number one because I remember watching it. Just maybe me being a little fruity, but oof, that one, the female character, I forgot her name, but fell in love with her.
Jayla.
Loved her so much. Loved her fiery attitude. Would cosplay her.
I had such a crush on Jayla. So
karate
big of a
dude.
crush.
Her as a character, I didn't have a crush on her, but I did love her character.
Homie,
Dude, when I first saw her out of the makeup, I was like, my god damn, I love you.
Yeah, see, the
Yeah,
actress
no,
is an
she-
entirely
she-
different
she did a
story.
very- Yeah, no, yeah, but she did a phenomenal job. Like honestly, seeing also a new character, I think also triggered something just because it's a new character. Like, and
Yeah.
she's like completely different from some of these other characters.
And
But I will say, like, definitely the first. Yeah, no, yeah, she's awesome.
and when they do finally get around to making Star Trek 4, I really hope she does make a comeback. Like, I would love to see her.
Yeah.
I think I saw a really good take on this after Anton passed. That I hope they don't replace Scotty. I hope they add someone new, like someone who has a hijab or someone who is a different ethnicity to replace, but not replace Scotty, but like give Anton that very good send off. I saw
And Chris has the perfect
very good.
answer for
Someone-
this.
I saw. I'm trying to remember like what the quote was, but to have Anton Scotty go off and
Oh, you mean
become his
Chekhov.
own
Chekhov.
like captain. Yeah, Chekhov. I mean, well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
See, I wouldn't say captain. The way I've seen it, and the way I want them to do it, is take from the original movies. When you talk about Chekhov, when you talk about Anton Yelchin's character, don't kill him off. You kill him off, you're going to piss us off. As fans,
Exactly.
you're going to piss us off. Don't kill him off. Say, have a hailing frequency open, a horse sitting there on the bridge, Captain Kirk. All right, Captain Reliant, take care of our guy for us. All right, we'll see y'all later. Hailing frequency's closed, Captain. That's it.
And the USS
Have a
Reliant
little shot of
warps
the
away.
Reliant. Have a little shot of the USS Reliant warp out, and Chekhov's on the Reliant, and he's going off, and he's having his own space adventures now, and that's that. That is all I want for Chekhov.
Exactly.
That's all I want for Anton Yelchin. That's all it needs to be. Don't make a big thing out of it. Just make it very small, very quick, something like that. Early on in the movie, very beginning, as they're leaving space dock in the USS Enterprise A. Give us that. That's what it needs to be. That's what it has to be. That's the only answer I will accept, in all honesty. Put him on the Reliant, have him warp off into space on his own adventures, and let that be that.
Exactly.
Uh,
I think that would be very also
Okay.
good for just as a remembrance too, because he was. I mean, I was when I first watched the movies, I was so blown away with his portrayal that I was all like, "This kid is going places." And then I found out he passed, and I was just like, "No way!" Like he had so much potential, and like he's traveling the stars. That's where he is right now. You know what? He isn't dead.
Yeah.
He's traveling the stars with the rest of the crew. He's with Leonard Nimoy. He's with Michelle Nichols. He's up there with all the greats. Like he's flying in space. Like that's how I kind of see
he's
it.
holding.
After that
He's holding
movie
Walter
came
Tony.
out, I had one of the badges from that movie. Not the actual badges, but I had like a
Yeah.
quantum mechanics badge from that movie. I think what I ended up doing is I think I took a black band and I wore that around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did almost the same thing. Because I didn't do a black band with it, but I have, a space where I had all my badges put up at the time, and I had little lights on them.
Hmm.
And over the badge for that movie, I turned the light out
Mhm.
and then put a shot glass in front of it and turned it upside down. Or no, I turned it right side up, poured some. All I had was Dr. Pepper at the time, but I poured some Dr. Pepper
I
in
was
the
about
shot
to say
glass
vodka?
and left it there with the right. Yeah, I got this out of Chekhov's locker.
I always assumed
I
you'd
figured
be
you'd be more of a
a
vodka
vodka
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
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 A
Her,
vodka
like,
guy, yeah.
oh man, I also want to like
Oh,
commend Beyond
Lord.
as well. Some of the best prosthetics I've ever seen for Star Trek. Like, not dissing any of the older shows because the prosthetics for that time was fucking amazing. But I remember
Well,
this one alien girl that
Oh, the one with
opened her head.
the one with
Yeah,
the
I
thing on the.
fucking loved her. She was another
I
of my
thought it was
favorite
cool, but
designs
I always thought that was
ever.
creepy.
I
Oh
loved
yeah,
it. I love
it's creepy cool.
cool.
Yeah.
It's creepy cool. I loved it though, but it was such like I think that's why I like prosthetics so much. And that like if I were to ever act in something and they'd be like, hey, you have to wear like a bunch of prosthetics, I'd be like, sign me up. I know I'm not allergic to latex. Sign me up. Put me in something so cool that you can't
I'm the kind
recognize
of guy
me.
that can't
Please.
stand that kind of crap. I was like,
There-
nope, don't keep that shit off my head.
There are several reasons why I love Beyond. So on the DVD commentary or some of the extras on the DVD, they talk about in the making of it, they added 50 different alien species because it came out on the 50th anniversary
Mm-hmm.
of Star Trek.
Yep.
So there are 50 different alien species throughout the movie. And that's something they did as a nod to the original Trek. Another thing they did as a nod to the original Trek, Sulu, Hikaru Sulu, being gay, not just the actor.
Yeah.
They did it as a nod to George Takei. Loved that. That was pure love and intention by them.
Mhm.
The director of that movie is Sulu's husband in that movie. I don't know if y'all knew that. The kid that plays Sulu's
Yeah.
daughter
Mora.
is the director's daughter. Yeah.
And
That is
Future-
the director's
Future
daughter.
helmsman of the Enterprise B.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But the main reason I love Beyond more than I love the other two is while technically the first one is its own story, Beyond is its own story with a whole new crew. Beyond is we've never seen that. That doesn't have any hint to the original series movies, doesn't have any hint to the original series. It is its own story in its own timeline, and that is why I put that movie above the other two.
Exactly.
Don't get me wrong.
It
Like I said, I
it
love
truly-
those other two movies.
Yeah.
And this, what I'm
I
about
think
to
it
say is not
truly
a
gave- Sorry.
not a diss on the other two, but it was the first original story we had gotten out of J.J. Abrams at that point. Not talking bad about him,
Mhm.
but that was the first original story we had gotten from those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I agree. I think that's why it's the best and why it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to the NX class, you know what would be the
Yeah,
Kelvin
the
timeline NX class is what they fly out of there. That's badass.
Mhm.
I fucking love
Okay,
that.
Yeah.
I have a gripe. I have a
That
That was
gripe with that.
amazing.
I have a gripe with that.
Oh no.
See, here's my thing: is the timeline itself wasn't changed until Nero went back. So it technically should have been the original NX class that we know and love.
True.
And that's my only gripe with it, and it's not like hey, I hate this because of that. It's just that's my personal gripe with it. I can get over
mean,
it.
Everyone will have a gripe with everything, with
Yeah.
anything. I think, like, I know people still have gripes with some specific actors that are in those films. I know people that my grandma. I'm calling out my grandma. She hates Chris Pine as Kirk. She literally every time I bring up the movie, she's like, "Oh, I just can't stand his face."
I
being
love
Kirk.
Chris Pine as Kirk. I think he did an
I
amazing
love
job with what he was given.
I think my grandma's just old.
Well, and
It's
here's
just my grandma's like, it's just like
and even though I do have a gripe
will
with
say-
it, here's how I rationalize it in my head. Is
Mhm.
when Nero went back in time and created that alternate timeline, it went both ways instead of going just one way. That's how I rationalize it in my head.
Exactly.
I don't think that's how it actually works in the Star Trek universe, but that's how I rationalize it in my head.
That sounds like the most logical
Right.
thing, though, is that
Is like the ripples
spread
would,
apart from each other, and one just didn't stay.
yeah.
Well, and I mean, it does make sense because if you think about it, when you break space time, when you do something like that and you break space time, you don't know how it's going to affect it. No one truly knows how time travel would legitimately work. The one constant being in anything time travel wise, don't fuck up the butterfly. Don't touch the butterfly.
Exactly.
Don't swap the butterfly. Don't
Just
do
don't.
that because you don't know what
Just
you're going to fuck up in
don't.
the future.
If Life
But we
is Strange
also,
taught us anything,
yeah, we don't still truly know what time travel will do. So, technically, if you fuck up space time, those waves don't just move in one motion.
Hey,
If you think about it, they ripple out both ways. It's like a ripple in a pond. It's going to ripple out both ways. So I think, in all honesty, your rationalization is probably the correct answer.
well, yeah, and that's probably what I'm thinking of. It's like, but they don't necessarily state that in any movies or shows, so that's how I'm choosing to
Yeah.
rationalize it, because it hasn't been officially declared or whatever. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work, but that's how I'm going to rationalize
they're
it.
leaving it open
Yeah.
now. I think personally they're leaving it open for the viewers to decide of
Right.
how they see that time travel would work. And I think technically, like, the actual probably fact of it is probably your reasoning. But
Mhm.
I think that's why they're not really confirming anything, is because they want to leave it open to the viewer to decide of how this timeline has ventured off from our original one that we know and love and whatnot.
And there's been plenty of episodes and stuff that have done time travel, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Like, any minor changes or anything like that doesn't ripple out like that.
Yeah. But then again, that wasn't necessarily a minor change.
Right.
It was a major incident. So
Yeah.
there's but also going back to the casting of the Star Trek 2009 franchise, the Kelvin timeline, there have been several instances in which we've seen characters or actors come up and play characters that former actors have played. And not just in Star Trek, but in general. And it's like, I don't know if I like this casting all that well. I think I put this person here, swap them, and probably do a lot better. When it comes to the Kelvin timeline casting, I wouldn't switch a single fucking person.
Yeah, I think they all did
Mhm.
amazing.
They do phenomenally. Every single one of them has done phenomenal with the role they were given. Benedict Cumberbatch, going back to him as Khan.
And he did come.
As much as I love Ricardo Montalban, as much as I love his Khan, the way his voice works for Khan, his accent, his mannerisms, Benedict Cumberbatch plays a different Khan so fucking.
He does, yeah. It's definitely. I think that's why also I love Into Darkness is his portrayal. I think that's also why my grandma likes it, is because her and my uncle absolutely love Khan. Inserting my uncle here, he wanted to cosplay this year for our little Comic Con that we go to as Khan. He was like, please, if you can find a good cheap costume, please let me be Khan. Unfortunately, the cheapest costume is $250.
Well, for
and
Con, it wouldn't be that hard.
Cosplay don't got that.
At least not from Into Darkness Con. Wouldn't be that hard.
Oh wait, no, he wanted the old person. He
Oh,
wanted the old
yeah.
original.
Yep.
That was his movie growing up.
I've like again, and going back to your theory about the NX class and about it rippling out both ways. Think about Khan. And think about Khan's story and all of that. While technically on this side of Nero's timeline, going back in time for the Kelvin universe, the Botany Bay is already in space and stuff like that. But that Khan has a completely different story from Ricardo Montalban's Space Seed Khan. Even before getting put on the Botany Bay, if you listen to his backstory, it's almost entirely different.
Yep.
So I think it does kind of go both ways, and they kind of drop a hint Into Darkness for you to kind of make that assumption as well.
Right.
If you listen in and you kind of dig into it, if you wanted to make an assumption like that.
And I've never dug into it. That's
right.
That's my thing.
and I'm only on that because before we got to the original series, I was like, you know what? Hey, let's have some fun real quick. Because these movies don't technically go into the Star Trek timeline. Let's have some fun. Let's watch the Kelvin timeline for a little bit. Just because I was missing those movies, I wanted to see those movies. I hadn't seen them in a while, so I was like,
I watched
let's
the
watch
movies
these.
like right around that same time you did with her.
Yeah,
Because I think we were talking about that. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
you were like, hey, I just watched these movies with Hannah. I'm like, I just watched these movies like a week ago.
yeah. But like every time, and this goes back with any Trek.
Mhm.
This is for. I know we gear our podcast more for the younger Trek fans and people just getting into Trek, but here's for you older Trek fans, if you're listening, go back and rewatch those shows. Because as we've been doing it here, I've been noticing new shit that I've never noticed before. As I've been watching it with
Even
Hannah,
I
there are
noticed
some
new
things that are
stuff, and
popping out of
that's
me that I'm like,
pretty
holy
rare.
shit, how did I not know that? Or like, oh my God, this makes so much more sense now that I've, gotten older or whatever. You miss things. God damn it.
Wait, step down.
You miss things that, your first couple times through. Go back and rewatch this stuff because you're going to open your eyes to it. And especially after watching, being on the podcast with you, John, and talking with you and talking with Carter
Mhm.
and some of our other guests, I'll go back and, watch, some of the stuff that we've been talking about. And I'll be like, holy shit. I did not know that, like some of the moments you've brought to my attention,
Mhm.
on screen, on the podcast, I've gone back and rewatched and been like, God damn, he was right. Holy shit. How did I miss this? How did I not catch this the first time? I got a completely different
There's been
narrative
very few things
watching
that
it the
I've been
first
wrong
time,
about.
and then a brand new one, the second time that I watched it, the third or fourth, whenever. Going back and rewatching D Space Nine, there's, I know that Odo and Nog are very complex characters, but they get more complex every time I watch D Space Nine because I
Mhm.
listen in a little bit more, I dig in a
Yep.
little bit more, and they just keep getting more and more complex. It makes their character growth so much more exponential that I fall in love with them over and over and over again. With Geordi and Data, Spock, I just every time I rewatch it, I fall in love with the characters all over again, and for new reasons. I start loving them for new reasons. And I'm like, oh my
Absolutely.
God, that's fucking cool. That explains so much about you. I missed that the first time.
Yeah, even I
So-
catch new things. Having seen every show, every movie, at least for the TV shows, at least 3 times in their entirety, and for the movies, God knows how many times. I'm not even going to try to guess that. I'm not even going to attempt to guess that. But I catch new stuff, and I'm like, hey, wait the fuck a minute, like what the hell is that? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
and then I'll get into a tirade, and I'll be on Memory Alpha for 3 hours learning about this
Right,
new
like Hannah-
thing.
Hannah loves and hates watching Star Trek with me because
Oh, she
there are
thinks
so
she
many
hates
moments
it
where I'll
watching it
pause.
with you. She should try watching it with me.
Oh, I know. But like, I'll sit there and I'll pause and I'll be like, holy shit, well, I'll start running down a fucking rabbit hole.
And then he calls
more or
me
less
for
talking to
backup.
myself. Yeah. But I'll run down a fucking rabbit hole, just more or less talking to myself, or I'll pause it. She'll have a question, and then I'll never answer her question, but I'll answer like 30 more that she was gonna have.
Mhm.
And,
Oh yeah, I love Star Trek. I think everybody should watch it, but I am the worst fucking person to watch it with.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
ask one question,
and-
you're gonna
and-
get 40 different answers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, with my friend Ben, I've always tried to get him into Star Trek, and he's never really seen it as his thing. He's more of a Star Wars fan. He likes science fantasy more than he likes science fiction. Perfectly okay. Nothing wrong with that. And so he's like, hey, what's a real good series you think I should start on with Star Trek? And previously my answer had been TNG. But I
That'll
told him recently
always be
after
my
watching
answer.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds, because I know him so well.
Mhm.
I've known him for 14 years. Knowing him as much as I do, I'm like, watch Strange New Worlds. It's a series that I wasn't ready to watch because, I didn't like Discovery and the way they did some of those characters on Discovery. You know, it was this, that, and the other, and I wasn't ready to see that maybe they'd done a turnaround on the characters.
I turned
and
them on to
until I
Strange New
watched
Worlds.
with Hannah. Yeah, like you had me, you know, okay to watch it, and then watching it with Hannah, you know, I went in with low expectations, and I enjoy it. I love it. You know, I do have some gripes about it, but not many, and it's more or less gripes that I shouldn't really have, because as I explained it to John and explained it to Hannah, when we see the original series and we see the cage, we get Pike and his crew for one episode. One episode does not do a lot of character development, and some of the characters that are on that episode are very different from who they become later on
Or
in
even
canon,
if they're
in Star Trek
there.
canon or Star Trek lore. Very fucking different. Like Spock in the cage and Spock in the original series, two different fucking characters entirely.
Very different characters.
So, you know, it was more or less like, well, why are you making this person this? Why are you doing this? Da, 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 da. You know, who are all these people? You know, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm having to sit there and think to myself, like, well, I don't know Pike's crew. Legitimately, I don't know Pike's crew. The only Pike that I know his crew is the Pike from Star Trek 2009, when the entire Enterprise crew is already on the Enterprise and Pike's in command. Okay, and we're at the end of Pike's
like half a
career
movie.
as a captain. So, you know, as per those movies. So, you know, I don't know Pike's crew. So I, you know, had to kind of lower or take away that bias that I was already having for it to kind of get into the fact of, no, I don't know shit. This is an entirely new series with an entirely new crew that I don't know. I know the name's Pike. I know Number One. I know Nurse Chapel, and I know Spock. But I don't know Nurse Chapel, and I don't know Spock before they step foot on the Enterprise and gallivant through the stars with James Tiberius Kirk. I don't know them before that. So, you know, and again, you know, Ethan Peck, like I said, Lumen, when I was telling you about it, when I was trying to get you to kind of, you know, hey, maybe you should check it out, give it a little go. You know, because I know you had the same distaste for Ethan Peck that I did, because you watched Discovery as well.
I didn't watch so much. I kind of just watched the bits and pieces while my grandma watched it.
Right.
But it's not like I didn't enjoy his Spock. Like I will admit he did a very, very good job. But just seeing a different person, in my brain, I went, ew. Ew.
Well,
but in actuality, like, he's a great actor.
Yeah.
But again, you know, Ethan Peck does an entirely different job with Spock than he did on Discovery, and it makes the character, he very much has the aura of Leonard Nimoy and Zachary Quinto when it comes to Spock. He is very much to the core that Vulcan human half-breed. Now, I know on Strange New Worlds, we're getting a younger Spock on Strange New Worlds. We're getting a younger Spock than we've ever known. Spock is a lieutenant, not a lieutenant commander here. Spock is more or less, he's been in Starfleet for a little bit because he's a lieutenant, but he's still kind of brand new-ish, and he's still trying to figure out, is he more Vulcan or is he more human? How to be both without, you know, disgracing the other. And I love his peril with it in Strange New Worlds, because it's a peril that we see even with Leonard Nimoy's Spock going into the original series and into the original movies. And it's a peril that we see all too well in the 2009 Star Trek universe, the Kelvin timeline with Zachary Quinto Spock. You know, it's very, you know, it's a problem. Well, it's not a problem, but it's a peril for Spock, the character, that is always going to be there because he is who he is. And that's why so many people love Spock, because he's so relatable in that. You know, who am I? Am I this? Am I that? Am I my own thing? You know, who am I? And that's what makes Spock Spock. And so his portrayal of that in Strange New Worlds, while it's, you know, a few episodes here and there, it's not a major thing about him, and so it doesn't take away from what we know is Spock, but it adds.
Well,
and it does it beautifully
And
to who
the
Spock is.
crossover episode with Lower Decks points that out very well.
Mhm.
You smiling Spock.
Yeah.
Or the laughing. Ha ha.
Well, and how
That
Boimler
fucking
is
got me.
very, very worried about him because the Spock of, well, quote unquote, legend is very much not the Spock we see in Strange New Worlds. He is still working on becoming into that Spock.
Mhm.
And so I like how they pointed that out, like, hey, this is what we're doing with this character, is kind of how I saw it, and like, yeah, we're gonna get there, but we're just not quite there yet.
Exactly.
Right. And it's giving a lot of like what I want to equate it to is Worf in Next Generation when he deals with Klingons.
Exactly.
Because it is very, very similar to those storylines they give Worf in Next Generation. When he's dealing with Klingons. Am I Klingon? Am I Starfleet? Who am I? I was a Klingon raised by Starfleet officers, raised into Starfleet, went through the academy, joined, am the first Klingon in Starfleet, but now I'm dealing with people who see me that look like me. They call me a traitor. They call me this, they call me that. They tell me I'm not a true Klingon, but in my blood, I know I'm Klingon. Who am I? And like I said, Strange New Worlds does that beautifully with Spock as well. I'm dealing with Vulcan, and I want to be Vulcan, but they don't see me as Vulcan. But I am Vulcan. But I work with humans, and the humans call me Vulcan, but the Vulcans call me human. What am I? It's very. Now I will say my biggest gripe with Strange New Worlds is T'Pring. Knowing T'Pring at this point in time, it's not a good thing, but again, I'll get over it. I love the storylines with T'Pring. They do bring me happiness. They do bring me joy. And the actress they have playing T'Pring, I have a massive crush on. She is, oh God.
Oh, big time.
Bring T'Pring here, okay? T'Pring here, okay?
Yeah, I'm more of a Chapel stan, but that's beside the point.
Oh, Chapel could get it too. No, I'll tell you who I really have a crush on. And then,
And here we're
went
heading
looking
to
up
HR.
The actors on. I went looking up the actors on Facebook. Fucking, John, I want you to guess because
Oh God.
you've seen the series. I want you to guess, La'an Nguyen Singh's age. I want you to guess the actress's age.
The actress's age?
Mm-hmm.
27.
Christina Chong, 40.
I'm gonna go
She's
28.
40?
What?
She's fucking 40, dude. I
No.
know. I know. Go look it
No
up.
way.
Go look it up. Look it
I
up.
am. What do you think I'm doing?
I was at 38, so I was close.
Son of a bitch.
She looks like she's about our age, and I'm like, I have such a crush on La'an Nguyen Singh. I have such
Is she a
a
vampire
crush
or
on
something? Like, what
La'an
the
Nguyen.
hell? She's got like the Patrick Stewart syndrome.
Okay. On that same note, you're our pilot, Erica
Ortega.
Ortegas. Yes. Guess how old she is. Before you look it up, I want you to guess.
30.
Go look.
Wait.
I don't know the actress's name. That's the problem. Melissa Navia.
I'm gonna guess 40.
Right on the money.
Just wait.
40. She's 40. What the?
She looks so she
All
looks
right.
young.
She looks like she's 21. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, she looks my age. What the fuck?
Whatever fountain of youth they have, I
want it.
I want in on that.
Okay, that's a
If
little
I
bit.
look that good at my 40,
Okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. How old do you think T'Pring is?
I'm guessing she's about 30 something, like mid 30s.
33.
Yeah.
I was half
Yeah.
expecting her to be like 40. Like 40 or
Dude,
42.
Like when I went to go look that up, I was like, I started looking up every single woman on the fucking next Strange New Worlds age, and I was like, you're gonna sit here and tell me all these women are in their 40s? No, Nurse Chapel is I think
33.
28 or 29.
She's 33.
Oh, she's 33. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, like you're gonna sit there and tell me they're all fucking 40? Where's the fountain of youth, and how do I get there? Put me on the
Uhura.
Enterprise so I can get to the
Uhura
fountain of
is
youth.
our age.
Yeah.
Well,
Uhura is
she's
the only
my
one.
age, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, I am a Laan Noonien Singh stan, 100%. I will say the somewhat attraction between Laan Noonien Singh and James T. Kirk is my favorite thing. Because I'm like, you're fucking your enemy's daughter. You're fucking your enemy's daughter.
Like great granddaughter or something like that.
But still,
Yeah.
still, you're fucking your enemy's daughter.
To quote Star Wars, it's ironic.
But and I do love the fact that when confronted with it, the James T. Kirk in this timeline, not the alternate timeline that Strange New Worlds gives,
Oh boy.
he's already messing around with Carol. Now, I will say my big gripe with that is that he said, well, it's complicated with Carol because she's pregnant. James T. Kirk never knew about David. Well,
Yeah, he did.
David Kirk, more or less.
Because in Star Trek
Well,
2,
he
he
knew,
asks,
but he
"Is that
didn't know."
David?"
Right, but like he knew, but he didn't know.
Right.
You know, like he didn't know that David was his. Like he knew there was a possibility that he'd fathered a child with Carol, but he never truly fucking knew. And so him saying like, "Oh, she's pregnant," like that kind of makes a hint of like he knows, and it's like, no, he doesn't know. Like he knows, but he doesn't know. It's like one of those things. Like, could be mine, but Carol's a hoe.
Yeah.
But like I said, I love that little love trope that they've got going on. The Spock and Nurse Chapel love trope is kind of a bit of a thing for me. I'm like, I'm not big on it, but okay, you know. Again, I'll let them do what they want to do. You know, I ain't gonna get too mad about it.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said, I'm trying to come at it with low expectations so I don't ruin it for myself. Because that's been my biggest problem with a lot of these Star Trek shows that I have not seen before, is that I go into it with such high expectations, knowing the canon and everything else, and when they ruin it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm writing off the show. Now,
My
Discovery was its own
expectations
different animal.
were lowered when Discovery came.
Yeah.
And so for every Star Trek show since, I have had low expectations thanks to Discovery. Not that Discovery wasn't... How do I put this? How do I put this without it sounding bad? I don't think there's a way I can say this.
Discovery was shit. We know it's shit. Fuck you.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to be nice for once. You know, it's a nice
Fine.
change of pace.
Not Discovery was shit, but it wasn't good.
It was not good.
Yeah.
Even after they went
how
to
we
the
put it out.
future, it still wasn't great.
And see, I didn't watch it. Like I said, I stopped watching Discovery when they brought in Spock and they brought in Sarek, Sarek, and they brought in that whole line of Sarek adopting Burnham and
Oh, speaking of
being
Spock's
Spock's
parents,
sister, and then
the lady who plays Amanda Grayson is hot. I forget. She was in a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Portrayed by Mia Kirshner.
Yeah. But you know, I fucking
Yeah, like
I
go watch another teen movie or not another teen movie, and you will see Spock's mom in
yeah.
her prime. And
Oh yeah. But no, like I said, I stopped watching Discovery after that. I watched all the way up until the end of the second season when they warp into the future. And I think I watched 2 episodes of the season 3 when they're in the future and she's trying to find her crew and all that shit and blah blah blah. Because I had a crush on Tilly, still have a crush on Tilly. I fucking love Tilly. Tilly's the best thing about Discovery, and that's that.
oh, just wait till we get to
But
her
I
in
couldn't
Star
do it.
Trek
I
Online.
couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't get into it. You know, it ruined the franchise for me.
Mhm.
Is how I felt about Discovery. So, you know, I haven't, like I said, that's why like a lot of these newer shows I haven't seen them. I haven't seen Lower Decks. I up until recently hadn't seen Strange New Worlds because I'm just like I don't want another Discovery to happen because it was pitiful, it was poorly written and poorly designed. I mean, you took what was so beloved and just fucked it. You know, now had you said Discovery was on its own timeline, I think I could have been okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, had you said it was an alternate universe Trek show, I think I could have given it a little bit more.
Or even if they said
But
it
it's
was in like the Kelvin timeline, I still would have been okay with that.
Right. You know, but it's because of you put it in the Prime universe and you fucked Klingons royally.
Big time.
That was my biggest gripe was the Klingons, not just the fact that
A problem
care
that
for
Strange
a
New
lot of the
Worlds
writing.
is still trying to fix. They've done a pretty
Yeah.
good job so far, I will say, at quote unquote fixing them.
the Klingons
but
that I have seen, the Klingons that I have seen, I've been decently okay with.
my only gripe with the
Um,
Klingons in Strange New Worlds is they're not is the foreheads, but
Yeah.
we've talked about that.
Um, but I will say that the episode where they have to have the Klingon ambassador on the ship, and it's dealing with Mbenga's
PTSD.
the ringing got to me. It kind of pissed me off. As someone with tinnitus and PTSD myself, it kind of pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. That was a big one. So warning for you guys wanting to watch Strange New Worlds if you haven't gotten there yet. Be careful of that episode. It's in season 2, towards the middle of season 2, if not the back half. If you have tinnitus, it's a bitch of an episode. But it's a real fun episode. Otherwise, I mean, you get a lot of backstory on Chapel and Mbenga, which is really great, really warranted. I really enjoyed it. Other than that, it was just,
I was about to
you
say,
know,
I
it was
think it
fighting
does.
its own.
I think it does a real good job at addressing like PTSD. I think it does a really good job at
Yeah.
addressing and kind of bringing that to light.
Yeah, it did. It did a very good job of doing that. But it is a bit of a trigger for those that do have PTSD, especially that from you know, having been in battles or having been in situations where as a medic, you know, me being a medic, it brought a lot of shit up for me being a medic, you know, because it got pretty fucking realistic, you know. And that's again one of the things I love about Trek is it's able to address things and give light to things that a lot of shows try but can't. Like I watched The Rookie. Okay, and I point to my TV right now because I've got it on in the background. There's some background noise. I watched The Rookie. I enjoy the fuck out of that show, but it does a shit job at portraying what actually happens as a first responder. You know, I can't watch a lot of first responder shows because they do shit jobs. But
911
they
is
try their best.
if you are first responder related
911
or if you were a former first responder. 911 is a horrible show.
911 and 911 Lone Star, you should absolutely stay away from. If you have anything to do with first responder, dispatch, police, fire, EMS, the works, stay the fuck away from that show. It will either trigger you or you will
Any
just
of the
laugh the whole time
Chicago
at it.
shows, stay away from them.
Yeah. But the rookies. I think what I get with the rookie, why I like it so much, is the fact that while it tries to show real stuff and how things could happen and
It's a
could go
lot
down and
better
stuff like that,
than the other first responder shows, I will say.
it's comedic. It's
Yeah.
because it sticks to that comedic value. It's supposed to be a comedy, and that's what it sticks to. While it hits those real moments, while it hits those real things, it sticks to its comedy. And where Star Trek gets around it and is able to hit these things nail on the head and kind of focus on them is the fact that it's sci-fi, so we know it's all fake. It's set in the future, so it hasn't happened yet. But it's so character oriented. Every single Star Trek show is character oriented in the way that they can show you how it affects people. They can show you what PTSD can do to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
They can show you what facing your enemy shortly after they were your enemy can do to you. Having been raised in a military household, I've seen my dad go through perils when, a mosque was built not far from our house. My dad, having been in the first Gulf War and having been, in during, uh 07 to 17, that time, Baghdad, Iraq, Iran, the work, having been over there and fought, those people, while my dad very much, he knows it's not the faith. It's still very hard for him to go past that place and see people dressed up as, in the same garb and attire of the people that he fought against, and very recently, people that took his body from him, took his mind and his peace from him, so, and seeing that on Star Trek, I think they did it beautifully, how that will affect you, how that brings shit. Because again, yeah, I was just an EMT, a firefighter. I don't know what that's like, but I watched that episode and I got a real dose of what it is like for my dad to do that. What Star Trek does and how they do it is they get you so involved in these characters that you start believing you are the character. They walk you through the episode as you are the character, and you feel those things with the character, so what it's like, like an inkling of what it would be like. And I think that's why they're able to do it so
And Star Trek has
and again, it's the
always
fact
been
that
good about addressing any of these kinds of issues too, even back in the day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you had him tackling suicide, you had him tackling everything.
Loss of friends, TNG, the fact of like, oh, these were your friends, they're not anymore. Shoot on sight, you have to. It's them or you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want it to be you. Again, Star Trek 6 is legitimately about the fall of the Berlin Wall, about the collapse of communism, about the fact that at that point in time, in that day and age, Russia was reaching out to us for help, and it was very hard for our military to want to do that, to extend that hand when our government started to talk, for the first time in 50 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
It was, what are you doing? They were just last week pointing nukes at our fucking heads, and now we're giving them an olive branch. And it was very much, it was coded. I mean, it was coded so you didn't realize that's what the movie's about, but that's what the movie's about. The Klingons were the communists. Even in the original series, the Klingons were the communists. The Federation is the US and its allies, and the neutral zone was the Berlin Wall. that's what the series was about. Like that's how they structured everything. So they've always been great at doing that. And tackling social issues, political issues. I mean, you name it, Star Trek's got an answer for it, and it's so beautifully done, so beautifully done. And I think the best message that Star Trek has ever told is, hey, yeah, it's gonna get better, but we're gonna have to destroy ourselves first. It's always been every bit of Star Trek and the past between our current timeline now, their future, but our current timeline and that timeline, their timeline. They had the Eugenics War. Excuse me. They had the Eugenics War. They had World War III. They had criminal courts. They had martial law. The world was in utter and complete chaos.
Disaster.
Until right up on the other side of it, this guy decides, fuck it, I'm going to space. And builds the first warp engine. And then
that he can go see
we make
movies.
first contact. And yeah, and peace begins there. Because even then, when you watch First Contact, we're just on the other side of World War III when First Contact happened in the Star Trek timeline. Peace has not been made yet. Like, the only reason we're not still fighting each other when First Contact happens is because most of the world's
dead,
irradiated with nuclear radiation. Most of the world is gone. So, and I love and hate that that's going to be a thing. Personally, with World War III being on the brink of existence here now in our current time, I hope to God Gene Roddenberry was a time traveler. I hope to God that he was right. That after World War III, yeah, most of us are probably going to be gone because nukes are going to fly fucking everywhere. But I hope that when we're on the other side of it, there will be peace. And that the world can heal in a way that's so proper that we can start coming together. Because I want Trek. I've always wanted Trek ever since I saw it. When I saw it, yeah, when I was introduced as Wrath of Khan, it was cool as battle. It was fucking badass. Let's blow this guy the fuck out of here. We're gonna fuck him up so bad his children's children are gonna fucking feel it in their balls. But as I grew into it and I got older and I started going through my own perils, I found my solace in the fact that eventually, as a species, we're all going to come together and realize we're better together than we are alone. And it's always been a source of hope for me. I want it more than ever. As much as I want a communicator, as much as I want a transporter so I can transport wherever the fuck I want to in a matter of seconds.
Replicator.
I want a replicator. I want peace. As someone who has fought my entire life, as someone whose entire family has been military my entire life, and I'm not just talking my dad and my grandparents, I'm talking like their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. Hell, I've traced this all the way back to the 1500s in the UK, and we were still soldiers then. More or less, my ass was bred for war. As much as that's true, I'm done fighting. I want peace. Our little squabbles aren't going to go away. The fact of, oh, well, that motherfucker's got a nicer house than me. Fuck you. That's not going to go away. Oh, well, you're dating my ex? Well, I hope you like sloppy seconds. That kind of shit's not going to go away. Hell, that's in Star Trek all the way up. But it gets better. It's still a one and done. It's still well, I don't need money. I can just transport down to Earth and I can go to Paris tomorrow. I can go to Australia the next day. Using these transporters, I can go where the fuck I want to.
The
you know, kind of
acquisition
shit.
of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives.
Exactly. Oh, you know what? That was another one. There we go. Fucking money in the future in Star Trek. People say it doesn't exist, yet there are gold press latinum and Federation credits.
It exists.
Now, here's the deal. Kirk in the original series says, money is no longer a thing on Earth.
And then he'll say
And it's
something
not
like,
because-
Scotty, you've just earned your pay for the week.
Right. And then Picard, especially in First Contact, says money is not the driving force behind anything now. If you do it because you want to. Paraphrasing there, but again, yeah. So gold press latinum is more or less the universal payment. Think of it like I'm gonna use Star Wars here. Think of it like galactic credits, Imperial credits in the Star Wars universe. You know, you want to have some on hand because you're gonna go to these other places. You're gonna go to these other stations, other worlds, and you're gonna want to trade, get some stuff there. You're gonna have some gold press latinum on you. You know, you have Federation credits, which Federation credits are kind of top tier with gold press latinum. They can be traded for gold press latinum here and there. It kind of gets explained in the Deep Space Nine, but it never really does. More or less, money is still a thing. It's just, again, not the driving force. It's not that it doesn't exist. It does.
Unless you're
it's
a Ferengi.
just right. It's for the human race, for Earth. It's like if everything was a donation. You could go out to a nice restaurant if you want to. You could eat. And you could go home. Or if you're feeling nice, you could eat. You could pay the staff with Federation credits and then go home. You don't have to anymore. It's more or less, you know, the way it kind of gets explained as they go back in time or as they go down to Earth in their current timelines, especially with Cisco. When Cisco goes back to Earth and he sees his dad, that's one of my favorite episodes about it.
Several times
You know,
he does.
Yeah. You know, you see him, he's using a transporter to get from one side of the country to the other. Going, you know, using transporters all over. It's really cool. You know, you step outside and go to your transporter pad, kind of like a bus stop. You transport wherever the fuck you want to go to. You put it in the coordinates, whatever, blah. You see people using them as transit, but you also see some cars. You know, you'll see people. You know, yeah. You see people using their vehicles still. There's still some vehicles out on the street. But he goes to his restaurant, and there are people that come in, sit down in the background of it, come in, sit down, eat, and leave. You don't see any transfer of payment, nothing like that. They just get up and leave. Wealth isn't necessarily a thing anymore. There's no division between the classes. There's no, you know,
upper class, middle class, lower class.
Right. No one's overtly wealthy anymore. Pretty much, it kind of gives the ideal that everybody's got about the same amount of money, more or less. They don't there's not really too much that explains it a lot in Star Trek because you don't focus on Earth in Star Trek. But that's about the best answer I could give you. Honestly, I mean, I don't know, John, if you got anything different from what I've got, but
I don't actually. You know, you pretty much nailed it right on the head.
Yeah, that's about as good as it gets. But then again, yeah, again, that's another thing I want. Fuck being poor, fuck being wealthy. Let us all live in the fucking middle. You know, you've got people now making so much money they could give the world. They could give every single person in the world their own $1 billion. enough to set them up for life, set their kids up for life, set their kids up for life. Going, if you're smart with it, 4 generations. $1 billion can go 4 generations. Okay. Yet they don't. Now, again, I know. I mean, if you're going to be a billionaire, you know, how do you do that? But again, you know, theoretically, it could be done, and everybody could live comfortable and happy, have the lives they want, do what they want to do, build the houses they want to build, get the cars they want to get, you know, stuff like that. But also, one of the other things that's kind of talked about in the episodes where they go to Earth is materialistic things aren't necessarily it's not a material world. Hate to quote Madonna there, but yeah, you don't live in a materialistic society anymore. It's more or less you just live. You're just happy. You just get to do what you want to do. It's an oasis, more or less. I guess is the best way to put it. You know, do what you want to do, live how you want to live, and nobody's gonna care.
Exactly.
Just don't be a dick and don't murder people, because there's still laws and there's still people getting in trouble for shit, but just don't do it, you know. But yeah, you know, that vision of the future is something I would love to be a part of. I don't think it'll ever happen for me, you know, but hopefully my great grandkids, you know, because that'll be about the time that Archer's born. And yeah, hell, hopefully one of my great grandkids is on the NX-01. You know? Who knows? I could, you know, I could give birth to the grandparent of Charles Tucker. But
Hell,
you know,
you could
something I
move
would
out
love to
to
see.
Iowa at some point.
Right?
Catch my drift.
Or Bloomington, Indiana, you know. I'd go that route too.
Good point.
Speaking about Iowa and Bloomington, Indiana, I fucking love both the towns in which Janeway and James T. Kirk are born in. Do have
statues.
The one in Iowa, it's on, as you enter the town, there's a sign that says, you know, welcome to
Riverside.
Riverside, yeah. Welcome to Riverside, Iowa, future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk. And then closer to Town Hall, they have a plaque, a concrete plaque that says the same thing: future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk.
They had a statue.
2233. Do they have a statue? I haven't seen the statue.
I don't remember if they actually have a statue, if not or not.
I know Bloomington, Indiana has a statue of Janeway. And Bloomington, Indiana has a rock that they've carved into. I don't know where the rock's at, but it's somewhere in Bloomington where it says future birthplace of Captain Catherine Janeway.
They've got one.
They have the statue.
They have a statue of Kirk.
Which Kirk?
Original series.
Is it Shatner?
It's Shatner. Yeah, Shatner.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I know Bloomington has the one for Janeway, and it's Kate Mulgrew who they have for Janeway on that one. It's a real good picture. I think it's from her in season 6, season 7,
something like that. Yeah,
I think it's the one they used for her. But yeah, both those places, I want to go there, take the trek up there, get it, and take some pictures. You know, maybe do a little video or two for the podcast out there.
Give me 1 second, guys.
But yeah, and then again, I want to get my passport and go to France and visit the Chateau Picard. It'd be cool if they made a statue of Patrick Stewart out there for Picard.
That would be cool. Yeah, if there would have been a statue, we definitely would have heard about that.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you know, there's they've gone on us such a educational tangent tonight. It's been great. I mean, hey, this was an education show. You know, here you are. Here's your education. Welcome to Star Trek.
Yep.
You know, oh, for you guys that were here last week, and we were talking about the Sci-Fi Museum, which is technically the Pop Culture Museum there in Seattle. If you are a Star Trek fan, go. That's all we can say.
Yep.
Okay, it would take another hour to go through the list of things that John found that are there.
And
Just
we're
listen
about
to
to
us.
3 hours right now. Actually, we're way past 3 hours. That's beside the point.
Oh wow.
But go to the Seattle Pop Culture Museum. Just
do it.
Do it. All right. Even if you're not a Star Trek fan, just fucking do it. You're gonna find something there you'll
If you're
absolutely
any kind of
fucking
sci-fi
love.
fan, just do it.
Do it. Also, I want to recount a statement that I made last week. The Space Shuttle Enterprise is not at the Virginia Air and Space Museum. It is actually on the Intrepid Museum. I think Discovery is at the Air and Space Museum,
Gotcha.
the Smithsonian Space Museum. Because I found that out. I went to look them up to make sure that I was right. Enterprise is on Intrepid. So that's where that's at. Discovery is in the Smithsonian. What is it? Endeavor is in California, the California Institute for Space and Science. And they've got Endeavor put up on a full rocket launch mount, ready to go kind of setup for you to go check out. It's really cool. They just recently did that either last year or the year before. They finally finished getting that built up and ready to go, and it looks badass. I want to take a trip out there to go see it. Unfortunately, Houston didn't get a space shuttle. It pisses me off. And I'll tell you why it pisses me off. Because I live in Texas, damn it, and Houston's a 4-hour drive. I can make that in a day. I've done it before, and I want to go see a fucking space shuttle. But now I got to go to fucking California, fucking Florida, Virginia. I got to go all over the fucking place to see a goddamn space shuttle. But yeah, the 4 surviving, there's Discovery, Enterprise, Endeavor, and what's the last one? There were 6. There's Challenger, Columbia, Endeavor, Discovery, Enterprise. What is that last one? Because it's the one that's in Florida. God damn it. You're looking it up for me, aren't you?
No.
Thank you.
No, you gotta figure it out yourself.
You had Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, Endeavor, and Enterprise.
Atlantis. That's the one that's in Florida. That's the one that's in Florida. I'm pretty sure if Columbia or Challenger had survived, yeah, we'd probably have one in Houston for sure. But then again, Houston's got the Saturn and Apollo and Gemini rockets, so y'all can all suck it. And we've got the shuttlecraft from the original series. We have the Galileo in there, so we're already doing better than you guys. But yeah, space nerds, Star Trek nerds, go to these places, check them out. They're fucking great. Trying to think of some other places you could go for Trek.
Aeronautics and Space Museum in
Well, yeah, we said that one last week because that's where
that is where the original USS Enterprise is.
Starship.
The original filming model for the original series is in the Smithsonian, the Aeronautics and Space
That's
Museum.
so cool. So I may head off. I am very tired.
Yeah, I think we
So-
should probably I think we should probably wrap this up here.
Yeah, definitely should. So for those of you, thank you guys. Episode 20 in the books. Next week, for sure, Voyagers season 1 and 2. I'm gonna do some more homework. John's gonna try to do his. I
got a lot going
watch
on.
a little bit of both seasons. Here's been an educational episode for you guys, and more education for you guys. Y'all know it. You hear me say it every time. 988. That's the number. Call it if you need it. We love you guys. Thank you for being here. And Lumen is most definitely the epitome of there's a place for everyone in Trek. So if you didn't know, or you weren't believing us now, you've heard Lumen. There you go.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, I will hopefully, maybe next time we do something, I will try and be in Spock cosplay because I completely forgot that Chris invited me on. And then I get that text and I'm over here like, oh, I'm not even in cosplay. My hair's a mess.
Trust us,
I'm
we
just
do it.
laying
We
here
do
in
it
my bed.
every fucking week. We're like, oh yeah, it's Thursday. Oh yeah, it's at 6 o'clock. What the
I
hell?
forgot he invited
Every
me
week,
'cause I'm
every
an
week we
idiot.
do it. We're like, oh yeah, it's
No.
Thursday.
Even now
It's
I know.
always one of us.
But and to
mean-
Lieutenant Junior Grade Carter, we hope you have a joyous time on your missions back at Starfleet Academy. Get your engineering degree, buddy. Can't wait to have you back on the Kitty
Yeah,
Hawk.
fuck, I took your spot. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, I took your spot. My spot now.
Or the Hornet, if you feel like trading up.
Wow.
You should have known that one was coming.
All right, but yeah, hopefully
Rank
next
reduction.
time, if I am able to do it, I will probably either try and get my Data cosplay all fixed up, or do Spock because I have everything for him. I just need face paint for Data, so
Fair
one of
enough.
those two cosplays I will be when I'm invited again. Because it was fun. Like I learned actually quite a bit that I actually, you know, and my best friend Robbie, he texted me and he was like, "Are you busy right now? I want to call." And I said, "No, I'm on a cool fucking podcast." And he went, "What is it?" And I was like, "It's a Star Trek podcast. You wouldn't like it." But he loves Star Trek. His mom loves Star Trek. And so he was very happy when I said that it was actually live, and he freaked out and he was like, "Dude, I'm going to watch it every time you're on." And I said, "Well, watch the other episodes too." But he went, "No, only you, because you're my best friend." So Robbie, if you're watching, I'm coming for you. He's actually coming for me. He's coming to actually soon for the
You left
Comic-Con.
you, Robbie.
No, hey, don't shit in his left shoe,
Alright.
shit in his right shoe.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Ensign Lumen. We will see you next time. This is Captain Yarbrough signing off.
Captain Hudson signing out.
Ensign Lumen signing off.